Welcome, viewers, to this year's race number 3 in the Spartan Elite Championship Series, brought to you by the OCR Report. I'm David Magida, along with Jack Bauer. And Jack, we are back on the side of Blue Mountain, the mountain on the East Coast, aside from Killington, that people seem to fear the most. And we have a new twist this year because instead of going up and down the mountain, we will be spending a great deal of time ripping off some speed and some aggressive obstacling on the lower portions of the slopes, some steep and nasty stuff, but also an opportunity to really let it rip. So welcome to the show, man. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
I'm,
it.
I'm excited. I wish I was out there racing. I'm dealing with an injury, but the lineup that we have of top level talent coming to this race reminds me of the good old days. Everyone's been asking when Ryan Atkins, Lindsey Webster, some of the Ryan Kemps, and some of the stars who have been missing at Palm Beach and Big Bear are going to make their season debut. Well, guess what? They're here, and everybody else is as well. You have 7 previous National Series podium finishers on the men's side and 6 on the women's side in this race. It's going to be so competitive, and we've seen some course previews, people sharing some videos as well. This course is looking nasty.
You know, it's the first time this season that has really felt like the Spartan races of old, where we're like, wow, these fields are deep. This race maybe is a little more unpredictable. And I think this is going to be the first one of the year where we say, wow, we didn't really see this coming. I mean, I think you saw some of that in Big Bear because of the heavy carry and the impact that 3 laps of that heavy carry had. But on this one, more so, not just because of the difference in this layout and this course and this specific terrain, but also just because there is such a depth of field at the top end rather than a depth through the middle. This is set up to be the most exciting 3K race of the year thus far.
Yep, phrased it perfectly. We have almost there might have been a couple last minute signups, but we're almost at a completely full male field. 45 slots were open, and I believe that they sold out. The women's field is in the mid 20s or so. So with the finals and each round, you're going to start at roughly 45, roughly 30 make round 2, roughly 50 and make the finals. You're going to see some really good male athletes not make it to the finals, have some big upsets on the women's side. 8 to 10 will make the finals, and same deal. Some really, really good athletes are going to be left out. Just the competition, that I think that is what's going to define this just as much as the course itself, just having such a deep field compared to what we've seen in the previous 2 races.
Well, I think before we break down who's who and who is going to be a contender and talk into depth about those people, I think we need to talk about this layout a little bit because what we have here is a bit unexpected. Typically, when you look at Blue Mountain, there's a few things that stand out. One is the temperatures, because we do run this race on this weekend every single year. And I mean, it's a 4 p.m. It's scorching outside. It's well over 90 degrees. It's
And
exposed.
humid.
And then, of course, you have, and it's humid. Yeah. And then we have the climbing. Normally, you have massively long, people remember that double sandbag carry near the top of this race. That's not in play this year. What we do have is a great deal of work around the lower end of the mountain, some double sandbag carrying on some sketchy terrain, and then, of course, the thing that's going to really shake this race up, the barbed wire crawl from hell that I imagine on the 3K version of this race is going to absolutely demolish people.
I think if you were looking forward to this barbed wire crawl, you have something wrong with you mentally, because this looks so terrible. I don't know how they came up with this. I've never seen a design like this for a barbed wire crawl in all the years that I've been watching Spartan race. Bracken, he's making his return. Normally he's in the booth, but he's actually racing there today. He said that this race is essentially a 600-meter race until the barbed wire, survive, and then you've got about 50 meters of a barbed wire crawl. Can you imagine going halfway across a football field? This isn't just a flat terrain, though. You've got essentially ski moguls. That's what it looks like, and it is all uphill, just like you were saying. Alex Walker, she said that she walked by it beforehand in a preview. Water everywhere, so your hands are going to be wet getting out of there. There's no staying dry. Very low at certain points, higher at others. Just a whole lot of variability, and I think you're going to see you could see 5 spots change. Just whoever enters it getting out, they could gain or lose 5 points depending on how aggressive. But it might end up hurting you because if your hip flexors might blow up, you've still got to go uphill afterwards, and the race is only 2/3 over at that point.
This is an old school style barbed wire crawl. These moguls, these undulations, these are things that they used to dig into the barbed wire courses when they used to be longer, more rugged, when you'd be bleeding from the knees going through them. I harken back to some of the old tuxedo courses that used to have this uphill barbed wire crawl where you were going in and out of ditches. The only difference here is this looks steeper, this looks uglier, and of course, you're attacking it at a much higher speed. So there's going to be a lot of attempts at passing on this barbed wire crawling. I think a lot of people look to hold position. This is not the race where you can get to do that. So to me, this is going to be a big part of the race. And I also think back to some of those other nasty ones. The old Conyers, Georgia one comes to mind. That was flatter, but again, those deep, deep divots, those deep holes that if you find the right line, it's going to make all the difference in the world in this particular barbed wire crawl. And that brings me to, I think, the big point of this, which is we don't know who the best racer is out here today. But I have my suspicions that some will benefit from this barbed wire crawl more than others. And Jack, I'd like you to take us through who our top men's contenders are first, then we'll go to the women after that.
Sure. I think you just have to look at who has won a 3K race so far. And Ryland Shadig, he ended up winning Big Bear. He's the defending 3K champion from this series so far. How can he be one of the favorites at the moment? But you have a couple of very, very good crawlers who have, had some remarkable performances recently in the past year or two. Tyler Veerman, I rewatched the Utah coverage from a couple of years ago when Hawk Call had his breakout. They had an uphill barbed wire crawl. Tyler probably made up 4 or 5 positions. He is a freak going uphill on barbed wire. I think just based on his track record, he has multiple podiums in national series races in the past. I think that he is licking his chops, seeing that there's a nice long uphill barbed wire in this. Ryan Atkins never gives up position in the barbed wire. Ryan Kempson as well. I mean, you've got a murderer's row lineup right there, and that's not even mentioning some of the international talent that's coming here. We have athletes from 7 different nations, including the U.S. We have Canada, Denmark, Mexico, Slovakia, South Africa, and Switzerland. I mentioned South Africa because one of the best overall athletes with completing obstacles is from South Africa, Thomas Van Tonder. He won the OCR World Championship 100-meter short course in 2019. He has got second place in the 3K at the OCR World Championships before as well. And I think that this format is just, something that he's been dreaming of. You don't fly from South Africa to the U.S. if you aren't fit and ready to take on the best in the world. So look for him to do well. And of course, it would be disrespectful if we ignored the guy who's finished third place in both of the 3K races so far, Manuel Defoe from Switzerland. He's back. Third race. He's done all 3 or this will be his third race in the series. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on the podium again, but it's so tough to, you're ranking someone who could finish first, 7th, and they might only be a minute apart at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on the
Well, that's the beauty of the race today is that you don't know. A guy that you think could win it could also finish 7th, and that is why we run the races. There's nothing that gets me more excited to watch this race. I'm going to throw another name out there that we talked about before, which is Logan Broadbent. And this is a guy who he recently dropped like a 2:32 marathon. He has been in the mix in the U.S. National Series, where he has finished, I believe, as high as 3rd in that series, 3rd or 4th.
Yep.
He has been on podiums in these situations. I have raced against him in this 3K format, and he did the bulk of his damage on uphill barbed wire crawling because he is the smallest of all the athletes in this field. And a really talented obstacler, guy who does American Ninja Warrior, and just this is very much suited for him. The double sandbag carry that does exist on this course is not a massive up the ski slope kind of carry, so it takes away his biggest disadvantage. So I look for Logan Broadbent to be a major force today and to really shake things up.
You nailed it. And another thing about Logan, he's from Ohio. This is in Pennsylvania. One state over, he's used to this nasty, humid summer type weather, and it's going to be easy travel for him getting here. I'm sure that he didn't have to cross the country like some athletes did, or cross the ocean like plenty of others did. So I agree, Logan Broadbent, with seeing this barbed wire crawl, I think that that's a game changer, and you need to look at athletes who's really succeeded on the barbed wire. We looked at Big Bear, and the double sandbag carry is the difference maker. I think we're both on the same page that barbed wire crawl is going to make a difference. There. Let me add one other name that I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about, despite having 2 world championships to his name. Robert Killian. He is ruthless on the barbed wire crawl. He's podiumed here at Palmerton in the past, and I think that this is just going to be a fantastic course for him to make his return to action in the National Series race. He's been the National Series champion in the past, and I think that he wants to show that even though it's been a few years, he's still one of the best. On David's end, I'll go over some of the women's field as well. I know the men are the one who are starting first, but if we look at the women's field, Lindsay Webster is back. I think that anytime that Lindsay is on the start line, she's almost a guaranteed for first or second place. Last race in Big Bear, Chris Rogloski just dominated everybody in the double sandbag carry, and that is going to be present in this race again. I think that if we look at who has raced a lot this year, Chris has done plenty of other series races, trail races. I think that she is obstacle ready at the moment, and Lindsay, this is her OCR debut. She hasn't raced since Abu Dhabi. It's been almost 8 months since her last race. And I think that you might see a little rust on her end. But I think that the 2 big contenders in this race are Lindsay and Chris on the women's side. What are your thoughts, David?
Well, I apologize for my technical difficulties. It's good to be back. Obviously, I was thinking to see Lindsay Webster, to see Nicole Miracle finally go head-to-head after all this time.
No,
and
Nicole's not going to be here, David.
I think we're all a little bummed out that we're going to miss out on that.
Yeah,
exactly. I think we're all a little bummed that we're missing out on that opportunity. But the hope is that we get to see a great race out of Lindsay Webster, and that Chris Rogloski can really level up, that she has leveled up into this next tier of racer, and that we get to see her challenge for the crown. Because as much as we love Lindsay Webster, if she is on her way out, if Ryan is on his way out, and they're moving into other series, we want to see the peak stay at that height. I think Lindsay Webster is basically the gold standard, men's or women's, for what you should be in this sport. And it's exciting to see just her. I'm just pumped to see her back out here and see if anyone can challenge her, especially in this format. This would be her most vulnerable format.
David, it looks like they're calling the men's heat up right now. Once the women start, we'll go on some of the other contenders, but let's try to ID some of the athletes who are going to be in this first wave. So on the right side of your screen with the lighter headband, I'm seeing Ryan Kempson. You've got Thomas Van Tonder there in the blue shorts, kind of on the way to the left. I thought I saw Hawk Call in there as well. He usually wears some crazy shorts, but Austin Azar in the back row. Austin's going to be dangerous on the double carry. So
Azar's in there.
Yeah. Ismail Lin, he's in the blue in the front right.
And so we'll be dividing, if you're not aware of how this format works, we are going to be dividing this race up into numerous heats. And then they'll be releasing
off in 5 seconds.
Every few moments.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
And so typically as these runners take off, heats are released about every 2 minutes. There's a recognizable character in the back, Tyler McCready, exactly. Tyler McCready, who lives not far from here, who always comes out to run some of these Northeast races.
Yep. Yeah, he has.
We lost our visual here for a moment, but you can see how steep this climb is out of the gates. Like, there is still climbing. We joke and we call this the bunny slope, but it's at any other course that would be considered a pretty steep climb.
Yeah. David, you have raced at Palmerton and been here for live coverage in the past. Describe this lower portion. What type of grade? Because I'm just looking at it and it doesn't look that steep on camera, but if you are physically there, I guarantee you it's way steeper than you realize. That's how I felt about Big Bear. What would you say about that? Oops. And
It's
actually, I just got
probably
a
still in that like 10 to 12. It's probably in
range.
that 10 to 12% incline range. So, you're working pretty hard. You can run it pretty well
Jason, if you could
for a
switch over to
while,
cam
but
3
it's
real
taking a
quick.
lot
We have some
out of
people
you.
at the double sandbag. Yeah. That
Oh,
looks like
athletes
Chris
already at the double
Marone.
sandbag, but I wanted to point out that like that first climb is short, but that climb is going to take a lot out of the athletes. And so when we talk about getting to that 3-lap version, it's all runnable, but it's all depleting at the same time. And that's Kempson in second.
Yeah, that's Chris Marone in front, I believe. He is another Pennsylvania resident, and he messaged me beforehand that he has been running on these very hills at Palmerton training for the past month or so. And they released the course map early, so he knows where the low crawl and everything is going to be. I think that him going out fast is intentional because he knows this course very well. I saw Bracken in this race, in this heat with Ryan Atkins and Tyler Veerman. So this is the second wave loaded with talent. See Ryan Kempson.
The second wave looks really good. Bracken is getting out of the booth, mixing it up with the other athletes over here.
Yeah, let's see if anybody does
nice
what,
to see
what
Bracken
VJ's
back
known
in
to
the
do.
mix.
Where, yeah, VJ he's not in this race, but he tends to like leap, just like Ryan Kempson right there. That's how you save time. And look at him; he just saved 5 seconds on everybody going right into a descent.
And so you could see the length of this hill. That's as much as they climbed up. That's as much as they're run down.
Mm-hmm. We're about 2 minutes 45
meters
seconds
down,
into the race.
maybe less. The rest of the work is going to be obstacles, a little flat at the top, and some barbed wire crawl.
Yep. So if you're looking at the descending, Ryan Kempson got off first, and he's one of the better descenders in the field. I'm surprised he didn't open up a little bit, but he probably knows that he's got another climb after this. So save your legs for this barbed wire. It's probably intentional. And you can imagine if you're sitting in top 3 position with some of these athletes in the field in your heat, you're probably going to make round 2 in the top 30 or so. So Kempson might be a little conservative at the moment. And heat 3. Oh, there's Tyler McCready. We misidentified him earlier.
30 to go. 30 seconds. Same thing.
I believe that's Manuel Defoe on the front left, who has podiumed 3rd place at both of the prior 3K races. So that'll be interesting. Jason, if you can switch to the monkey bars, got some action going on there. Yep. So Thomas Van Tonder, followed closely by Ryan Kempson, 3rd place, Chris Marone, and Hawk Call right behind him in 4th place.
2, 1, go!
Now you've got Robert Killian, Tyler McCready. I didn't get full eyes on this second group yet, but definitely really split the talent up amongst those 3 heats fairly evenly.
Yep. Yeah, I think this barbed wire crawl, if we can get a shot on Paul's camera right now, they're going through that. Ryan Kempson, look at him just moving. He never loses ground, but Thomas Van Tonder is following him. He's letting Kempson figure out the quickest path. No one knows the quickest path right now. They're the first ones going through it. You can eyeball it from the side during the course preview, but unless you get in there and physically know it, it's a totally different game changer.
Well, Kempson
what are your
is
thoughts
doing
right
a
here?
lot of damage. Kempson's pulling away really nicely, but I would say the concern I have for him on a 3-lap version is would he overwork too much? Like in a 1K, this is a sellout race. You are it's however long it takes. For Kempson in this scenario, he's doing the exact right thing, but in future heats, as it gets longer, he's going to have to pace himself a little more.
Yes, I agree. If we could switch
This
to
is a nasty
Tim's
climb.
camera real quick, we get to see who's in the lead in that last pack for the double sandbag. So it's looking like Manuel Defoe picked it up. Is that Killian with wearing a dark top? I'm surprised at that. But Manuel Defoe, 1st place at the moment in heat 3. Moving very well. Now, what do you think?
And he's moved with the sandbags well in each race.
Yeah, I was going to mention, what do you think that the outcome difference is going to be using this type of sandbag as opposed to the pancake style? People seem to be
Well,
struggling a
these
little bit
particular
less.
sandbags, when you well, you're running on flatter terrain for starters. That makes a huge difference. But also they seem to be a little more stackable. You can work with them. Obviously, having the handle on them helps a lot. Being able to sling it over your shoulder, so there's a bit more control.
Agreed. Yeah, and I saw Ryan Atkins. He looked like he was in a white top. He was the first one off the monkey bars in Heat 2. So I believe that that's a good sign for him heading into the barbed wire crawl, where he is usually one of the better athletes in the field with that obstacle. We're also 6.5 minutes in since the first wave began, and as David mentioned, it's a 2 minute gap in between. I've run both of the previous two races, and they are on right on 2 minutes every single time. They've got a live clock going there. They set you off, so I think that we'll be able to kind of back time the athletes based on the clock right there. But Tyler Veerman's moving really well on the top side of your screen when it comes to
Shadegg
barbed wire.
behind him, and then off to the side that was also Atkins. So this is Logan Broadbent right here. We were talking about that, his ability to move, because he's almost walking as compared to some of the other athletes who are ducking down. It's such a huge advantage over such a long climb. And you see him passing people. He also found a really nice line.
Now, David,
Off
you
to the
you
right.
mentioned you mentioned Logan's climbing or crawling ability. If you are behind him, what do you do? Do you know that he's a good crawler, so you kind of stick with his line, or do you think that it might not suit your skill set if you're a bigger athlete? Like what would you be thinking right now if you're in the barbed wire right near him?
You just try and maintain the best you can, because you're not going to be able to keep up with him. And the reality is, he is looking for a line where he can just basically crouch and walk while everyone else has to crawl. And that is such a huge advantage, like saving his legs and saving his shoulders and not jacking his heart rate up. Here comes McCready,
Manuel
Killian right
Defoe with it.
behind.
Yep, this is the beginning of Heat 3. So Killian looks like he's in fourth place at the moment.
And that is that Jared Newby? That looks like Jared
I
Newby
believe,
sighting.
yeah, bigger athlete. That looks like newbie.
All right, so here's your lead heat again. And
So this should
Kempson
be done
now
in
kind of
20
kicking into the
seconds.
finish. This is the finish line kick. So it looks like Kempson's going to take heat 1. Not unexpected. That's pretty much in line with what we thought would happen.
Yep. And Chris Marone looked like he was in second place, the athlete who has done a lot of training at this venue in the past. But it looked like 8.5 minutes or so for that first heat. We'll try to see where Ryan Atkins, who's on screen right now.
We had some obstacle failures. You saw some athletes walking in towards this station, and this is looking like two heats merging into one right now. Ryan Atkins just moving
And
past
Veerman's
Tyler Veerman, and that's Shadegg behind.
nice. Three of them. That's a heck of a wave. Did you see
I mean, that's
the
three people that they may all end up on the podium as they get to the pistols.
Did you see the penalty? We saw an athlete fail the rig. The penalty is for men. You have to hold a 20-pound kettlebell in each hand and 15 for women. It's not that heavy, but realistically, it might tax your grip a little bit later in the race. So it just slows you down in that penalty loop, which no one can afford to lose any time at that point.
No, and it's interesting. The carry is not that heavy, but it's just the time. You can't take a time loss like that on a race this short. It's just impossible to overcome. As you see, this kick to the finish might get kind of aggressive for those last few racers.
I couldn't get a great view on it, but it looked like between the two walls that Tyler Veerman got slightly ahead of Ryan Atkins there. He might have had a little bit more success on the laser pistol, likely because Tyler has done it at both of the races, and this is Ryan's first time attempting that.
Well, we're going to pull up our live results and see what we can find there.
Yeah, everyone's finishing up right now. We have yet to see Heat 3 as far as I'm aware. Is that Manuel Defoe? I can't tell. Yeah, I bet if we get toward someone near the finish line, we'll just see how destroyed some of these athletes are at the moment. I've done both of the Palm Beach and Big Bear afterwards, and it's just carnage after the race. Everyone's just trying to get their heart rate down, frantically checking to see if they qualified for round two. They have live results up on the leaderboard, and you don't know until you cross the finish line if you've made heat two, because each heat is separated by only 2 minutes. So you don't know the time to beat until everyone is done. So I bet you're going to see a lot of nervous people in the next couple minutes as the final athletes tally in. Any luck with the results, David?
Not yet, but I'm hoping that we can get some up there as soon as Jason gets them in. As the men are finishing up the third heat right now, it looks like you're getting your third heat finishers. What's interesting when you watch this is how many guys in 1K of work were just kind of jogging it in or walking it in slow. But here's your leader so far. Manuel Defoe just continues to be a force.
As
Logan Broadbent so far in second. And these are live results. Tyler McCready third. Atkins fourth. Robert Killian with a surprise top 5. He, I don't think, was super confident in where he would be in this race, in this short format. But, I mean, the guy's a gamer. Then Ryland Shadegg, Ryan Kempson, Thomas Van Tonder. I mean, it's close. It's a really tight pack. Samuel Hebert as well. So you're seeing all the way down to Hawk Call in 12th.
I believe all the athletes on page 1 are probably going to be safe, because if there are about 45 athletes, top 30 will end up qualifying. I'm guessing there are enough names on the board at the moment who won't be kicked out. So Bracken Crocker right there in 18th, making his return. I'm sure this is a rude awakening seeing this new format. First race in a couple of
Jack,
years.
when you look at the approach to what a lot of athletes have done so far in this 3K series, the first round is a feel it out round. You know, if you're a good racer, you're going to make it to that second round. So you're learning the course, figuring out what are the good lines to take, trying not to expend too much energy. The second 1K is where things are going to get real nasty, because now it's going to become, the stakes are higher. The chance of elimination is very high. So I think you'll see faster and race of the day.
Yes. And if you look back at the splits from Big Bear, round 2 was essentially the same times within 10, 15 seconds for most of the athletes. Yes, you are more fatigued. You have a 15-minute break. Not really a break, to be honest, in between there. You're getting pretty destroyed from this race, but it's enough to catch your breath and kind of regather yourself. But I think that a lot of the athletes who ran heat 1 will end up running a similar time. In heat 2, they might pick a different line for the barbed wire crawl, but you'll probably see similar performances across the board in round 2. Round 3, that's when it's going to start getting really scary for a lot of athletes who might start suffering because of the demands the course put on them all day.
The heat, over time, it's all going to add up. It's all going to become, quite impactful. And you saw that there were some athletes here who this uphill, this incline really punched them in the mouth very quickly. And that's the thing about Palmerton. We're not even getting into the big hills, but we're looking at the women's race, and there she is, the champ, Lindsay Webster, the champ 4 times over.
Lindsay Webster has not lost a race since September 29th, 2019. Literally in the 2020s, she has not lost a Spartan race. Is she going to make it 18 in a row today? Real quick prediction, David, yes or no?
16. We'll move on to the next round.
I say yes. I think the safe money is to say yes. But you know what? It'd be exciting to see someone challenge her.
Yep. It looks like Julie Best in the middle. She got 3rd place in Palm Beach. Very, very strong athlete and experienced, because she has done Big Bear and Palm Beach. I think that's going to pay off for her. Trying to get a look at a couple others. I believe Amber Nelson's in there. Yanka Popova on the left side of the screen. So yeah, you've got some athletes who are for sure going to qualify for round 2 as well, with likely a couple podium finishers in this heat as well. Ooh, almost a
Well, the
false
women are
start.
off, and then in the heat behind, you can see some Riverbend CBD branding. I saw Alex Walker. I think I saw Lauren Weeks as well. So that's exciting to get to see Lauren Weeks stepping out of the convention center and onto the course.
Now, Lauren Weeks
Yeah, that is
ran.
Lauren Weeks.
Yep, Lauren Weeks ran and won the Utah Beast 6 days ago, and she also ran the Super on Sunday. So, do you think 4.5 hours of mountain running is gonna have any toll on her body, or is she just such a volume athlete that it won't impact her?
They will have no impact on her. I think the fact that
Yeah.
this is a different type of race may, where the
Mhm.
obstacles become a little more important, but in reality, this race is still about your engine, your ability to just put out power. And she
Yep.
has about as much power as anybody.
I'm not positive, but I believe that that's Cassandra Gill in the front, taking the lead. If that is indeed Cassandra Gill, she's a 35 low 10K runner. She ran Division One at Iona, has something like 7 or 8 straight podiums this year in all of her races that she's done. So if that is Cassandra Gill, she definitely belongs up there on a pure running segment to open the race.
3, 2, 1,
Yeah, but
go!
I want to point out how relaxed Lindsay Webster looked right there. She was trying to expend zero energy. And I
She's
think
probably going to move into the
that
lead
bodes
here.
really well for her. She probably will, but I think she has no urgency to do so. We're talking about the open heat. She only has to move on. And yet, you know how Lindsay Webster's wired. She just hunts people down.
Yeah, effortlessly looking. But trust me, she's working hard. It just looks effortless. So Heat 2, we also had Ida. We didn't discuss her, but Lauren Griffith, Chris Rogloski, Ashley
Ashley
Heller,
Heller,
Allie Tippett, Kelly Sullivan.
Kelly
You've got
Sullivan.
Aaron Sunday.
This is a loaded second wave. This is third wave. Excuse me.
Yeah, like I said early on, making it to round 2 is not going to be as easy as people think. And making the finals is going to be even harder. Just with how deep this talent is, this really reminds me of the races of old with how stacked it is.
One thing you should observe about Lindsay Webster is she's got a little bit of that Eliud Kipchoge vibe to her, where if she's hurting, she's not showing it. She's just smiling. And he, when he's hurting bad, he just puts on a huge happy smile. And Lindsay Webster seems to always be smiling while she's racing. It's just, everyone else is in a world of pain, and she looks like she's having the time of her life.
And last races on the right, Chris Rogloski, she ended up winning in Big Bear. All she does is smile during races as well. So maybe that's the secret to success.
They say that's what Kipchoge says. He says when he smiles, he's just getting endorphin releases. And look at Lindsay.
Good luck.
Yes, considering we just started.
Unreal. She's so good on the downhills. And I think that a lot of people have been quick to dismiss Lindsay coming back. I know that dog is going crazy. But Lindsay has been outside of the OCR scene for the past 8 or so months, and we've seen a lot of new talent come in and get podiums. A lot of people have risen up because a podium spot is essentially opened up whenever Lindsay isn't there. But she's kind of just asserting her dominance. And I think that once this gets to 3 rounds, she's going to take it even further, and it's going to be a big victory, in my opinion, even though we're early on.
We saw what Chris Rogloski did in Big Bear, though. She seemed to get faster as the rounds went on. And I think Chris is relishing the opportunity to challenge Lindsay Webster. So we're in for a treat when it comes to that. And also when we get an athlete like Alex Walker, who's going to be very strong on this course. When we get a Lauren Weeks out here, here's speak of the devil. When we get Lauren Weeks to challenge her, I think you're going to see you have champions on a number of different sports all coming together to battle head to head, just titans. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, Alex Walker, who you mentioned, actually did not race in any of the National Series races last year, despite having 2 podiums in 2021. So she's making her debut for Spartan for the past 2 years. She didn't race in either of the 3K series beforehand, but I think that that's just another big contender that's just going to disrupt things at the top of the standings.
And look
Ali
at Chris
Tippett's.
Rogloski. This is a veteran move. She got out and got those back quick.
Absolutely, but Ali Tippett's is right behind
her.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Tippett's has been impressive this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, her second place finish, it was very surprising because I rewatched the footage that she ended up holding on for second place because she actually was broken. And look at her about to make a pass right here, or at least get right on Chris's side. Ali actually kind of broke and during the double sandbag carry or in the finals last time, but she recomposed herself and ended up fending off Ida in the final round. And that doesn't happen often in a double sandbag carry. So her confidence must be sky high. She's 1 second behind Chris right here. She's taken down Nicole. She's taken down Ida. I think that just flipped the switch in terms of Ali's confidence. And I don't think she's ever going to go back to the way that she was before. She was always a respectable racer, but I think that she just elevated herself as a result of her performance at Big Bear.
Well, Jack, this comes down to the power of belief and the understanding of like, you don't need to be the best racer to beat the best racers. You just need to be good enough to give yourself a chance. And if, for most athletes, a chance is all you need. You'll take that. And Ali Tippett's she's not going to back down from anybody. We've now witnessed this in multiple major races. So, we have another contender on our hands who on any given day could win the race.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, let's see who we have coming up from the third heat shortly. This was the third heat with Chris. So maybe we can switch over to the
I believe we missed Wave 2's.
Wave 2 had Alex and Lauren, but we saw them jump off the Z-Wall a couple minutes ago. But if we can switch over to barbed wire crawl or something, that would be great.
Makes it seem like I'm not really moving. The only problem is that they're just kind of...
All right, let's see who's emerging from barbed wire at the front. Can't tell at the moment. Wait till she gets closer. I don't know if that's... that might have been Yanka. She was wearing red. I remember seeing that. Is that Julie Best follows slightly behind her. So they might be in third and fourth in that initial heat. And that is Alex Walker catching up to some of the athletes from heat 1. You know that she just had a fantastic barbed wire crawl right there if she's already this close to them. Great downhill runner as well. Alex, she'll probably be towards the top of the leaderboard once we see how people qualified from round 1.
Look at the damage that athletes take as they come out of that barbed wire crawl. Like, getting your legs going again is so difficult. And this is Chris Rogloski catching athletes from the previous heat.
In the middle of it. 5 minutes into her race. Unreal. And you can just see the technique. Look at the woman in the blue to her left. You can see Chris just moving as opposed to just looking around and stopping and trying to find a good line. Chris is just going for it, and forward progress is always better than no progress, especially in an obstacle like a barbed wire crawl.
This is the reason this is the reason that Chris will have a shot against Lindsay in this race, because she gets to do that barbed wire crawl 3 times. And if she can make up 15 seconds on each of those, that's just absolutely massive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, one thing that we have seen in the past with Lindsay, she's a very good barbed wire crawl, or she's very good at barbed wire crawl. She has had her hair stuck in the barbed wire. You can't predict that happening, but I think if I was a woman in this race, most of them have ponytails. You kind of need to have a game plan in case that happens. I've clearly never had hair like that, but I imagine that we could end up seeing that to someone, and you just have to stay composed if that does happen. But it has occurred in previous races before. Something to think about.
And per the rule book, athletes may not receive assistance from people who are not racing when something like that were to happen. So that would result in a disqualification. So another racer who is on the course can assist you, but someone who is viewing from the side cannot.
Chris powering uphill right there. She doesn't even look fatigued.
Chris just gets back going so quickly. And there's Alex Walker coming down towards her finish. And she looked very strong out here on this course as well. But I think we're going to have 5 women competing for 3 podium spots. And that is very exciting.
I think we could have up to 7 or so. But yeah, maybe we should touch on some of the other contenders since we were going over the men beforehand, just while we have a little bit of a time delay.
Let's hit them.
Just make sure they make it through the rig. Oh, that was a miss.
There was a fail right there.
I think that might be Regina from Mexico.
It's this transition that tends to be the hardest for people, especially when they're slick and humid. But you see how high Rogloski is taking that grip on that rope. She's not taking any chances.
And no matter how confident you are at obstacles, a lot of people say the rig isn't that difficult, but the intensity at which you reach the rig, we saw it in Palm Beach, for instance. Tyler Veerman, who went penalty free in Telluride 24-hour Spartan obstacle race championship, he stopped to wipe his hands off, catch his breath for a few seconds before a very similar rig in Palm Beach, and that was only 6 minutes into the race. It just, this intensity, it affects your confidence on these, and you might not go as quickly as you would in a normal longer distance race.
One thing I think, if you're watching at home, one thing to observe here is that I wouldn't read too much into the results of this first 1K. Yes, some of the athletes near the front end clearly can lay it down pretty hard on this course, but an athlete who finishes 6th or 7th in the initial 1K, they may be better suited for the grind of a 3-lapper as opposed to the high intensity of 1 lap of this course. And, you may be able to put out that output. Is that Emmy Cross, I believe? You may be able to put out the output for 10 minutes and feel really good. But to repeat that 3 times through, it's a different race.
Yeah, and one other thing, just to know how bad this race is in terms of pain, we just got a look at the crest of the hill, and we saw 5 women approaching, 4 of them were walking at the top of this hill. What's it, a 200 or 100-foot climb or so total vertical gain, and they're walking into a rig. That just tells you how exhausting this race has been so far, and they still have to get through this rig and then bomb downhill before they're done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the pain of 100 or 150 feet of vertical climbing over the course of 150 meters. There is the rub right there. It is such a significant incline, and it's not even the steep part of the mountain. People, you can't understand, as you see the mountain, the real mountain in the background right there. What we've seen year over year is basically lines of people that look like lines of ants dying on the side of that mountain. And even here at the lowest portions, it's still enough to really take your legs, take your lungs, and take your desire to push yourself.
Yep. Looks like that might be Ashley Heller, who just finished heading off downhill. She has done both of the 3K races so far, so I think that's going to play into her advantage on an obstacle like the laser pistol, where she knows what she's getting into. A lot of athletes have practiced during the 90-minute window before the race, but there's a difference between knowing how it feels during a race versus actually practicing it beforehand, and I think that's why she got in and out really quickly. Excited to see how the standings are after this, because we saw some athletes like Alex Walker and Chris Rogloski with a 2-minute gap catching athletes in the heat ahead of them. So the times that we might see, I'd be curious how they compare to the men's heat, just to see how fast they were. What a great view. Yeah. Could we switch over to Paul's camera just to see who's lining up in the next heat for the men? I believe I see Sarah Perez approaching it. And whenever the results come in, it would be great to get those on the screen for the women just to get an idea of who advanced and who didn't.
That was awesome watching you through the barbed wire. I loved it. I think you passed Atkins on it. It was like awesome. Your back looks good too.
Got a little net sound volume there. So athletes are now wrapping up on this opening 1K. They're going to regroup, and we're going to relaunch men. It looks like first heat of the men are about to take off for heat number 2, or I'd say wave number 2.
Yep. Or round
and now
number 2.
We're going to divide this into round number 2. 2 groups, I believe, this time.
Correct. Thought I just saw Balaam Bean running downhill. Yeah, maybe if we could get Paul to walk a little closer to the athletes just so we can see who some of them are, that'd be helpful. I heard 3 minutes in the background, so that was probably an announcement on how long they have until go time. Yeah, it looks like Thomas Van Tonder there with the blue arm sleeve. He started with a shirt. Now it's off. You know that it is hot. It's humid. The temperature, you want to do whatever you can to stay cool in between rounds so that your heart rate can drop a little bit. Manuel Defoe looks like he's in this. Chris Marone. Ciro Perez. Logan Broadbent. Yeah, this is going to be a dangerous heat. And the way that they do qualifications
we are loaded.
The way that they do the qualifications for the next round is they do even odds. So if you finish first in heat 1 and you finish third, you'll be in the same wave of the next round. And then if you finish second, fourth, and so on, that's when you end up being in the second wave for the round 2.
So keep in mind, we're looking at 90 some odd degrees outside right now. Oh, Lindsay Webster, how are you?
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can
hear good.
You. Welcome back.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. Yeah.
Is it as bad as it is on camera?
It's really fun. The uphills, my legs are like super lactic acid because they're really just punchy and steep. But yeah, I came over to see how the other girls were going through the obstacles and do some scoping. But here I am with you guys.
Yeah.
So that's more fun.
So you've been sky running for the last few months, and so how does this feel comparatively?
Looking forward to a shorter race. Every time you do a sky race, it's like, okay, here we go.
We lost our audio, Jason.
They lost the audio. Good? Better?
Yeah, we hear you.
I hear you.
Nope. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sky running, it's like every time you go into a race, it's like, okay, here we go, 5 hours. And so I was really looking forward to something short and punchy. And yeah, I missed, I was having a lot of fun through that mud pit. I missed the nitty gritty.
Is that the game changer for the race?
Just the nitty gritty stuff. I don't know. I think it'll just come down to maybe like heat management in this and endurance probably. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know after. I don't think the barbed wire will be a game changer. You can only move so through it, so it's almost like
what kind of effort
a bit
was
of a
that
chance
for
to
you?
catch your breath. That was like I kind of used it as normally like I'll warm up for 15 minutes. So I did that just jogging for about 10 minutes, and that was like my openers, I guess, so to speak. So it was a medium effort, I would say. Yeah.
Feeling it out.
Chill for
yeah, that's what we were saying.
Feeling it out.
Feeling it out. And some people were really hammering hard. We're watching the men start.
Yeah. I was really glad that I didn't have like Chris or Ida or anybody like in my heat who would make me go out really fast and make me, like Yanka, yes, and she was a good gauge for sure. But I was like very glad that I didn't have 5 other super fast girls and just burn myself out on lap 1. So, go guys. Look at
And
Sam
what
go!
would
Go,
would you
Sam!
have gone with them, or would
Crushing
you
it.
have just allowed yourself to run your race?
No, I would have gone with them. And that's why I'm glad, because I think maybe I would have gone too hard on lap one. And in this heat, it's like once you skyrocket your heart rate like that, it can be a bit dangerous. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I should probably go because my heat's gonna start in not too long.
Get some
Lindsay, go take care of business. It was
Is
nice
that
seeing you. We'll
men you're
talk later.
into?
Your
Okay.
husband's taking off now.
Good to talk to you guys. Woo!
Thanks,
All
Lindsay.
right. Bye, guys.
Good to hear from the champ herself. But now we've got the men's race going on, and Samuel Hebert, who he's just asserting himself at the beginning. He knows he's a strong guy, and I think that he wants to gain as much time as possible early on by, using his strength. Double sandbag, get it out of the way early, set some pressure, and he can coast in the rest of the race. He's really smooth on obstacles, and we'll see how the rest of it goes.
A very typical strategy is get to the barbed wire crawl first and obstruct. Like, allow yourself to be able to go a little slower because you can force people to slow down while they try and find a line around you. And so if you can get to that barbed wire first and not give them that free lane, you can control the race a little bit more.
Very, very good strategy. And there we see Ryan Kempson again coming in third, leaves in first.
Yeah, that's
That
what he
hop
does.
technique.
And he's the guy that you don't want getting to the barbed wire in front of you because he's another one who's kind of slithery through the barbed wire. He just has this way of moving cleanly.
And Kempson mentioned in a social media post that he was dealing with a little bit of a stomach virus on Tuesday or Wednesday. Doesn't look sick to me. You wouldn't be leading this race in wave 2 right now if you weren't feeling good.
He gave an update today. He said, you know what? I was not sure I was going to race, but the body's feeling good. I'm stoked to get out there and mix it up with all these guys, and let's go do this thing. So I'm paraphrasing, but here he is.
Is that Tyler McCready with the tiger shorts?
Yeah. McCready
Might
is a
be
gamer, man. Like, people don't realize that he finds a way to be in the mix. He doesn't have the pure running talent, but he just is a talent.
And that's a great point because a lot of these longer races, this format suits athletes like that, where you don't have 20 minutes of continuous uphill separation on a nonstop climb. This is who's a great obstacler, and athletes like him who might not have top end running as their strength, they can just get through stuff better than most and stay with some people that they typically aren't with.
He's also very good on his transitions, like coming out of an obstacle into getting back up to speed instantaneously is one of his skills, and going into an obstacle and not having to slow down to get into it. So he can make up for a lot of the losses that he takes on the pure run just in those moments.
Yeah, and we just saw Hawk Call getting on the Z-Wall with a couple other athletes. He's always known to go to the front. He got his debut in the 3K format out of the way at Big Bear, just missing the podium. He closed so hard in each of the rounds. He had the fastest third split, so he just ran out of real estate realistically, but he makes the final. He's an athlete who he got faster as the rounds went on. So I think that he'll be dangerous if he makes round 3.
Absolutely. He had that great photo finish at the end in Big Bear. So
that was Tyler and Manuel. He almost got it.
He had a separate photo finish. Excuse me.
Yep. Yeah, he's had some. That was slow when he and Nick Mask were really close to each other. But yeah, but Hawk is always up there. If you look at Hawk's results in the past, he's had 4 of his last 7 major races be in the top 4, including a win in Utah. So he knows how to contend with anybody. And what do you know? Ryan Kempson just gaining ground on the field in this barbed wire crawl. We saw him essentially tied with Manuel Defoe, and heading into the downhill.
He's
and then
climbing without having to crawl. You're seeing the difference in guys who are using that ability to go with that low leaning power hike through the barbed wire as opposed to actually having to crawl it. It makes a huge impact on how you approach it and how fast you can get out of it and the energy you're using.
And you saw him just touch the ground right there, looking for some dry grass, because as some athletes had mentioned, they put water in the barbed wire crawl pits, and now you're going right into an obstacle where you can't skip those vertical holds for the rope. So you need to have drier hands, or you're just going to slip off back-to-back ropes right there. So that was a smart strategy on his end to make sure his hands were a little bit dry heading into the rig, and makes it through nice and smooth. Manuel Defoe right behind him. Thomas Van Tonder, I believe, in third right there. So, oh no, Samuel Hebert, sorry. Look how quickly he got on that.
Keep in mind, Ryan Kempson is from the Northeast. So like he is used to this type of weather, this type of terrain. If you're coming from Europe, for example, you are not prepared for this level of humidity.
Nope. And we've got a couple other Northeast U.S. Athletes. Adam Beach, he's on there right now. He great at low crawls. He gained a bunch of ground in Palm Beach on that, got scratched up a lot, but he was just behind Tyler McCready right there. And let's see if Killian can make it. Guess who won't? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think Killian made it through, and he was sitting in 6th place in that heat right there. Assuming he's going to gain a little bit of time on the laser pistol, given his military background, I could see him potentially moving up into almost 5th place in this heat. That should be good enough to make the finals, but it'll be close.
And look at these two. You got Ryan Atkins, Logan Broadbent, and look at Logan Broadbent's ability to just run uphill coming out of that. He's so not impacted by the barbed wire crawl, even less so than Atkins was impacted.
Yeah. You mentioned during the preview show, Logan might be the best barbed wire crawler in this entire field. And look at him. He's leading heat 2 with a couple of obstacles to go and then a downhill. He might end up winning this heat and have the fastest seed time out of everybody heading into the finals. Look at it. We've got like 7 guys on the rig at the same time. This is just carnage. I don't know if that was Rylan who just fell. I might have ID'd him wrong right there, but that looked just like Rylan falling off the rig. Did you catch that, David? David, did you get a chance to see if I thought that was Rylan who fell off a rig, came into view, but I don't know. All right, Logan is in 1st place heading into the inverted wall. Thomas Van Tonder with the blue right armband is just behind him. I don't know if they were in the same wave or not, but both of those two should end up safely making the finals. But you saw Logan only a couple seconds ahead of Atkins heading into the laser pistol. And Logan, what's he have? 20 seconds right here. We haven't seen Atkins come into view at the moment. So I think that was just a game changer. Let's get a view of some of these athletes who are shooting right now. John Howard passing by, just finished. Ethan Brown in row 8 just finished. I think that's Rylan right there in the blue shorts, just shot at Dustin Livingood. Bracken Crocker with the hat. Maybe if we could have Tim go back to the laser pistol real quick just to get an eye on some of these athletes. I want to see Bracken finishing. So Bracken in and out. He's got his mod shirt on, so you know that compromised running pays off in this type of format. Let's see if it did for him. All right, who is that? Lane 1. Johnny Morris. He ended up just finishing the laser pistol right there, trudging along to the inverted wall. So we've got just big separations compared to round 1. And my guess is that the hot weather and humidity over the course of the past 15 minutes in between rounds caused some athletes to overheat, because you're seeing a lot more separation than we did in round 1.
Well, Jack, there's no reprieve from this heat when you finish. So you really get the engine running hot, and then where you would like to cool down, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to cool down. You have to stay near the start line, and you're just in this 90, 92, 93-degree heat. Sun exposed. It looks like there's a couple tents down there. That's it. And, you know, they're going to be out here for a few hours just in the heat.
Baking, yep. And we heard Lindsay say that she thought that was the most important factor when she did her quick interview with us. So I think that clearly that's going to be the game changer in the finals. And we've seen in the past, Lindsay, Ryan Atkins, they've been really good at heat management during bigger races. For instance, at Abu Dhabi, we saw Ryan essentially run with like ice in his shirt or a really chilled shirt on the start line in the desert because he knew you have to keep your core body temperature cooler or else you're going to overheat during the race. And I think that athletes who are finding shade during these next 15 minutes or so, getting a cold bottle of water or something, just dumping some liquid on them to lower their core body temperature, that's going to be a difference maker for those who have success in the finals, because you're going to have to do this 3 times in a row. It's going to be brutal.
And the reality, Jack, is that the only race that really matters today is going to be that last 3K. Everything else, it's just warm up. You just got to get your spot there. You don't need to overwork. You just need to get to that last one, and that last one is really hours from when we started. So if we look at the women's qualifying now, Chris Rogloski had the fastest time of the day, 8:35, 8:52 for Alex Walker, who we looked strong. Lindsay Webster, Ali Tippett, Yana Popova. So, and Ida coming in there in 6th. So really, really deep field. And look at the spread all the way back to Lauren Weeks, 10:03 for Lauren Weeks. So you're looking at 8 athletes under 10 and really 9 athletes bunched up. To me, I think from the jump, I said I think there are 5 or 6 athletes who have a shot of winning this thing. You might be right. It might be closer to 9.
Yeah, and this heat's loaded. We have Chris Rogloski, Lauren Weeks, Lindsay Webster, Ashley Heller, Yanka Popova, Julie Bett. You've got 5 women in this heat at least who could end up making the finals, and don't have a great view on the other 2. Sorry if I'm not IDing them, but this is a very, very stacked heat.
We have the battle that we've been wanting, which is the Chris Rogloski, Lindsay Webster battle. If we're not going to get Nicole Miracle and Lindsay Webster, the next best thing is Chris Rogloski and Lindsay Webster. So here we go. And Lindsay said, I did not want to be pushed on that opening run. And now you've got Lauren Weeks, who's going to want to see what Lindsay Webster's made of on the front end of this. And you've got Chris Rogloski, who's going to want to see what she's made of through the full 1K.
Exactly. I think Lindsay is too experienced to worry about this round, and she might be okay finishing in 4th or 5th seed time heading into the finals. We saw what Chris did on the double sandbag carry. She asserted herself right away. She didn't reach there first, but she was in and out better than anybody. And then she ended up creating a gap after on the carry itself. So I could see Chris doing the same thing again and Lindsay just kind of letting her go. But actually, it looks like the 3 of them are separating. So I might have misspoken.
This is playing out somewhat how I thought it would, which is, you know, if you are Lauren Weeks, you are the least experienced obstacleist in this group, right? You know, okay, the only way that I'm going to make it to this final is I got to run harder than everybody else. I've got to do all of the physical, athletic stuff, more athletic, more aggressively, and then let my pure fitness carry me to the finals. So she's going to go out and she's going to just run and push the leaders. And you know what? They're going to probably pass her on some obstacles, but this is her path to the finals. This is the way for her to do it. It's not sit back. They're going to probably pass her on some obstacles, but
yeah. And one other thing to keep in mind right now, Lauren Weeks right there. There are 3 givens in life. There's death, taxes, and Lauren Weeks going out fast, and that's exactly what we're seeing again. She does it every single race. She's in the front. We'll see if that affects Lindsay or Chris's strategy, or if they're just going to settle and try to get a qualifying time rather than trying to win the heat outright.
And Chris Rogloski also not falling into the trap. That's what's so interesting to me is she's the one with something to prove, and she's sitting back and waiting for her moment. She's an experienced racer now.
Yep, she won this race. She knows how to win a 3K format with the double sandbag carry. She knows that it's all about the final. She asserted her dominance during round one. She knows she can run fast. She can do that 3 times in a row if she wants to. Now it's just make sure you get the finals, don't overwork, and have something for the end, because it's Lindsay's going to be there, and you're going to have to give it everything and have a couple things go your way in order to take her down in the finals.
Don't be surprised if Lauren Weeks comes out of this in second or third position, just given how she's going to be a little bit more cautious on an obstacle like this. You're seeing the pass happen right there. Chris Rogloski moving into first. Or Lindsay Webster's already off. No, here's Lindsay Webster. So Chris Rogloski just showing that she stayed sharp while Lindsay Webster's been 8 months away from the sport.
Now, if you are Lindsay, do you let Chris beat you during this round to give her a hope that you can be beaten head-to-head? Because she's never done that before. Even though it's only a qualifying round and it doesn't really matter in the long run, do you think that I'm still better than you mentality might affect Chris, or she doesn't care what happens in this round?
I think Lindsay's going to try and hunt her on this next climb, but I actually think Chris is going to win this heat. I don't know if it's whether Lindsay lets her or not. I think Chris has put herself at this point in the position to win this heat.
It's not an accident that she's winning right now. And one thing that we have to realize, though, with Lindsay Webster, she never paces poorly. When have we ever seen her blow up? She picks her moments right. She's probably going to wait until lap 2 of the finals, make her move. She doesn't care what Chris, Lauren, Alex Walker, who's having a great race in Heat 2. She doesn't care what the rest of the field is doing. I think that it's going to be all about make sure that she can get in the right place to make her move when the moment's right in the finals. Because they don't see.
And you know what's impressive is Lauren Weeks still hanging around here, just on pure engine. And honestly, on an obstacle like this, monkey bars, she's actually looking a little more fluid than Webster even is. You can see there's a little bit of rust that Lindsay needs to knock off. When you're away from this for a while, I can completely attest to this. You get back out on the obstacles and you're like, wow, I am clunky, I am sluggish, and you need those reps to stay sharp.
Yeah, Lindsay is essentially using rounds 1 and 2 as her rust busters, while Chris has had the whole season of racing, and Lauren used the 2 races in Utah last weekend as rust busters and these 2 preliminary rounds. So I think by the time we get the finals, everyone's kind of going to be in game mode at that point. But no doubt this is it's a rude awakening to this format. She's never done it before for Lindsay. But I think that she knows what she's doing at the moment and doesn't need to sell out. Wait till the finals to do it, even if she's a little rusty now.
Weeks also, I would say the exact same thing. She's used this first round as an opportunity to figure this thing out. And now all of a sudden you're seeing a Lindsay or a Lauren Weeks who is going to go well under 10 minutes in this second round after running 10:03 in the initial heat. You will see a much faster, because she's now being pushed by the leaders. She understands the intensity she's going to have to go at in this next heat.
And Alex Walker, she started in Heat 2. I'm not sure if the rest of the ladies in Heat 1 are aware of how fast she's moving right now. She could easily be on the podium again. She's done it a couple times in the past. I could see her being a fourth person towards the front in the finals.
This format really suits her. I mean, she's got great speed. She's excellent at obstacles. Typically, when she goes head-to-head with Chris Rogloski in a different race series like Savage or something like that, Chris gets the better of her, but that's a longer race. This race is going to be half that distance with or a third of that distance with increased obstacle density. So I think that does tilt the advantage back a little bit closer towards Alex Walker. She's very good just moving obstacle to obstacle.
Can we switch to Tim's camera real quick? It looks like Lindsay made a pass on the barbed wire. They've been in there for like 90 seconds or so, but I believe that Lindsay got just ahead of Chris exiting. And that's what it looks like heading
Camera
up the
3.
hill.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And although you all can't see it, there it is. And she looks so smooth climbing right now. It's almost effortless. And you're seeing it's a different kind of gear that Chris has put it in. She's like a high gear runner. She's like, the legs don't move quite as quick, but each step is very powerful. And Lindsay's that low gear, tap, tap, tap her way. And you could see that Lindsay's ability to accelerate on that uphill was a little bit easier. It's almost like that Lance Armstrong versus Jan Ulrich kind of difference in cycling, or that Alberto Contador for the more recent ones.
All right, Lindsay got it. She made it through. Yeah, I wasn't too sure right there if she was going to make it. She looked a little looked like she
shaky.
had to lock out really hard to make sure she didn't fail it, but plenty of strength.
Now this is an opportunity if you are Chris Rogloski, you're like, okay, I could pass back right here. Click, click, and there you go. So she made up those 5 seconds she lost, and now look how hard she's running. And Lindsay said, I'm good. I'm good here.
We're
let's
both
see.
making the finals.
Let's see if she decides to race it.
Yeah.
And both women here are such talented descenders. You're getting a great view all the way to the finish line. I don't think Lindsay's going to be able to track her down, and I don't think she's going to try. Let's get eyes back on that finish.
Yeah, can we turn it around and see how they're finishing? If not, no big deal.
Stay with the leaders, please. Well, we'll get it in the results. We apologize to those of you at home.
Just looking at the distance and Chris being a good descender, I highly doubt that Lindsay ended up catching her just based on the effort that Lindsay was outputting, getting over the wall right there. She didn't seem urgent. I think that Lindsay knew, I've got you in the final, or we'll do this again in the finals, and I'll save my energy for that. But Chris could potentially have the number 1 seed in both. And that looks like Janka Popova right there finishing in 3rd. So we'll see her in the finals again. She podiumed.
And then Lauren Weeks. And
yeah, Janka making up some ground. So
less impressed by the ground Janka made up and more impressed by the ground that Lindsay and Chris put between themselves and Lauren Weeks if she didn't fail anything. Because that really stretched out in a very short period of time. I'm assuming there was a failure somewhere.
I agree. And looks like Alex Walker is about to finish the laser pistol. Let's see how it goes. In and out of there. Allie Tippett's getting right up next to her. Alex is asking questions. She might have timed out. Was that
it looks like she did time out. And she went right back by again. Man. I think that is Ida. Alex Walker has those wheels when she wants to put it into gear. If she's in the mix on the last lap, her ability to kick home is going to be dangerous.
Alex also is from Texas, crazy hot, crazy humid. This is not affecting her like some of the other women. She trains during these type of conditions, and they're hard to replicate if you don't live in that part of the country. So
Ida's from where? Denmark. So this is not what she's used to. She's doing quite well.
Yeah, I mean, both of them seem to be safely into the finals. Allie Tippett's finishing right behind her. So we're kind of having, I guess if this was March Madness tournament, they say it's chalk, right? That's when the teams that you expect to win go. You just kind of expect the top athletes to make it. That seems like what's going on with the women's field right now for round 2. Ashley Heller getting over. She might need a kick home because only 8 or 9 are going to end up making the finals, so every second counts here.
When you have these multiple heat qualifiers and it does come down to time, every second really does count. And so a lot of times when there's no one around you within 100 yards, front or back, it's easy to take your foot off the gas a little bit and cruise home. But that's the kind of mistake that could cost you a spot in the finals. So every athlete has to kind of keep that pedal down the whole way.
This is just speculation I just saw on the live screen right there. Tyler Veerman had a backpack on. That's not something you'd expect him to have on if he was in the finals. So until we see the results, I won't know any better. But I didn't see him on the roster for the final or for round 2. I didn't see his name on the list. And he had a backpack on that. I wonder if something happened that we're not aware of.
Your powers of deduction, Jack Bauer.
We'll see. Got to do that investigation.
Jason, we get those live results up by any chance?
For the men's heat.
I'd love to see our men's and women's live results after 2 heats.
Can I have one of those?
All right, so your men's leader, Ryan Kempson, followed by Manuel Defoe, who continues to
I
just put
appreciate
out
it.
big
Thank you.
numbers. Ryan Atkins, Logan Broadbent. This is kind of the mix we were expecting, but I want to point out where is
Where's
Rylan
Rylan?
Shadday?
Where's Tyler?
No
Wow.
Tyler Veerman. And this is going to be your final 15. So we saw Hot Call sneaks in there, Azar, Killian, but it looks like a couple costly mistakes may have taken Veerman and Shadeg out of this thing. And look at the spread all the way down to – just go down to 10th. 41 seconds separated first from 10th.
That's great. Yeah. Let's see who just missed it. 8:29 and change was John Howard. If we can get the 16 through 30, do you have those, Jason, or do we only have the first page? But yeah, I think the shock at this point, I did not see Rylan Shadegg, and I didn't see Tyler Veerman. Rylan having won this race, and Tyler won the Big Bear one, and then Tyler finishing second. So last races, top two finishers are here but did not make the finals. So I'm curious what happened there. It very well could have been Rylan who dropped off on the rig like I thought I saw him. So that could have been what happened with him, but I didn't see Tyler.
Well, let's show the people who we do have. We got Ryan Kempson, Logan Broadbent, Hawk Call,
Thomas Van Tonder,
I see John
Manuel
Howard,
Defoe, Ciro Perez.
Robert Killian. I mean, this is still some star power right here. Samuel Hebert, Austin Azar,
Tyler McCready, Balin Bean. Look out for Balin. He was in 8th place during qualifying, but was clustered with a bunch of talented runners. He's won several races this year for Carson, Montana, Big Bear Beast. He has great endurance, and he's clearly figuring out how OCR works. I think that he's going to be a name to watch because he's not going to fade during the last 2 rounds. So look out for Balin Bean.
And so look, you've got Manuel Defoe, Ryan Atkins, and Tyler McCready. So this is quite a spread. Ciro Perez also in there. And so you're seeing Bracken also did not make it. Veerman might have withdrawn. I don't see his time on the finish there.
Likely happened. So I'm seeing 28 names here, and we saw 15 on page 1. So my gut is that 14 made the finals, and John Howard potentially for the second straight race might have been 1 spot away from making the finals because he finished 9th in Big Bear, top 8 made it, and he's 15th right now for the finals. And here we go. So let's see how this goes. We've got 3 laps.
No, I think we have 15 here in this final. I thought I saw John Howard there before, but Samuel Hebert straight to the front again. It's an interesting strategy because now we're talking about 3K. We're not talking about 1 lap. We are talking about really throwing this thing down for an extended period of time. And that it's just a totally different race, the way you have to approach it. It's like if someone told you, hey, you're going to race a 3K on the track versus a 10K. That's almost the difference in time, 8K. It's a massive amount of difference in terms of how you approach this race.
This will likely end up being a 25 to 30 minute total duration, maybe 24, depending on how it goes. But you're right. That's much closer to 8K to 10K for a very high level runner versus less than a 2-mile race. So definitely going to see some fatigue setting in.
You'll see some massive fatigue setting in. And how this order is in the first lap is likely not going to be where it is at the end of the second. You're going to see some
Ryan Kempson is.
He's extremely confident in his ability, but I see a Ryan Atkins licking his chops when he watches guys go out this fast.
Yep. Now let's take a look. Ryan Kempson and Samuel Hebert have different strategy, even though they're both on one shoulder. We saw Logan Broadbent, 1 on his shoulder, 1 pinch grip towards the ground. Thomas Van Tonder had both of them in front of him. So you have 4 or 5 different techniques. Manuel Defoe, 2 on one side. You have 5 different techniques in the top 6 men right there.
Well, look in 5th position back there. That was Logan Broadbent. So if you're Logan, you're saying, hey, I just got to get to this barbed wire crawl in contact each time, and I can start to stretch myself back out. So I think this is a very interesting strategic race, as you see Ryan Atkins, he chose the line directly behind Kempson. And now he's got that shaky bail.
8 seconds behind Kempson, bell to bell.
So early in this heat. We've got this big descent where you'll see this stretch out a little bit, and then you're going to see a big spread happen on this barbed wire crawl. Maybe some passing. We saw last time Logan Broadbent made big moves each of the last 2 times, but as did Ryan Kempson. Kempson has been very good in the uphill barbed wire crawl so far.
Totally. I think Kempson, he has been the best male crawler that we have seen so far. Logan Broadbent for sure has been up there as well, but Kempson being able to sustain it afterwards and finish the race with that 17-second gap over second place qualifying for the finals, I think Kempson is the man to beat at the moment. Look at how clustered it is. You have close to 10 people as Tyler almost rolls an ankle on the way down.
Now, I look at a Robert Killian here right now, and I think to myself, this is exactly where he probably wants to be at this point. He's a very smart, savvy, strategic racer. And if I'm him, I'm saying, let's let people eat each other a little bit. Let's let the heat eat some people. And I'm going to sit back, and I'm just going to start to negative split this thing.
Isn't that the opposite of how Killian typically races, though, when he's on top? It's so weird because he's often the first guy to the top of the first climb at Tahoe at World Championships. He wants people to hurt because he can suffer more, and now he's kind of using some veteran moves right there to let people blow themselves up and pick his timing, I think.
If this was a straight mountain race, I think that's exactly how he would race. He was just, let's blow everybody up. But you need to make sure you don't blow yourself up in this heat as well. And I think the field is going to blow itself up. He doesn't need to contribute to that. There's no way that half of these men don't explode at some point on the second lap of this course.
100% agree. Everyone knows how fast you can do this barbed wire now. They've done it 2 different times. And you know if you're over red line on barbed wire, it's going to be a rough second or third lap for this heat. But a couple people, they're just going to go for the podium, whether they can actually hold the pace or not. But I totally agree. We're going to see several blow-ups during this final, probably the last lap.
So Ryan Kempson, this guy has now figured out what are his favorite lines, and he's been doing extremely well working up through those lines. We saw most people following behind where he goes. There is a path of least resistance through this undulated barbed wire course.
Another weird thing about this barbed wire, obviously it's shape right here, but in most races, athletes tend to hug the sides because that's where you don't have that little sag that you typically get in the middle. Here, people are going into the middle because it might actually be a better line for them to do. So it's a lot different than your typical barbed wire crawl where you're going to see a very linear, everyone stacking behind each other on the sides because it's slightly higher. Oh, looks like we're not next to barbed wire anymore. Maybe if we can keep on the barbed wire, that would be good. Maybe switch to camera 3. We've got Kempson approaching the rig, so he's already up the hill at the top, drying his hands off again like he did last round, not using grass this time, but I don't see anybody on the men's side failing this rig on the first or second lap, but you could see some weird things happen on the final lap.
Absolutely. Easy. Look who's joined the party. Ryan Atkins has moved into second place, and he looks very good. He looks very smooth. And this is a guy who, he's said, I think I can be good at this style of racing. It's not his ideal format. This is not what he wants to be racing. I think Ryan Kempson, this is exactly the style of race he wants.
Yeah, now
He'll enjoy it all.
Ryan Atkins is the ultimate adapter. Doesn't matter what you throw at him. He is a competitor. He'll figure it out. He's always in the mix. Sometimes he runs out of real estate just finishing in second place by a few seconds, which he's been known to do. But he's always right there, and I think he's going to succeed at this format. And it's rugged. He's run at this type of course before. He's done nasty climbs, quick descents plenty of times in the past. He might not race this year, but he'll be in there at the end right when we expect him to.
Well, you're getting your top 3 right now. That looks like Manuel Defoe sitting in third position.
Yep. So it looks like not
So
like an
this
ultra loop, but you've got a hairpin turn in order to rejoin the course as opposed to going through the finish line because of the timing mat.
Now, this is the only significant running climb, the longest one right here. And look, it's still pretty steep. You're looking at like 10 or 12% incline. As Lindsay Webster described it, quite punchy. And it's an opportunity to actually assert yourself and inflict some pain on the other people around you. I will say Kempson looks phenomenal right now.
I agree. And I'm a little surprised. Like Atkins, he's known to power hike at times. We saw him doing that next to Logan in one of the earlier rounds. Maybe he'll end up doing that on the second climb, but both of them are still running, putting out pretty good output at this point. So I don't think the fatigue is set in yet, but we'll surely see some of the top athletes power hiking at some point because we saw that in the earlier rounds. Yeah, I wonder. Let's get a time split on Ryan Kempson's lead over Ryan Atkins for first to second once he gets over this. So Kempson is exactly at just over 8 minutes in right now, and Atkins about 8 seconds behind him. Manuel Defoe might be about 12 or 13 by the time he gets over. So still a tight battle. They're all seeing what the athlete in front of them is doing. No one's fading at the moment, but this is the kind of battle that we want.
So Ryan Kempson going from a guy who wasn't sure he was going to race to leading the final on the second lap. This is an impressive showing. He has a 6-second lead going into lap 2, 9 seconds over Manuel Defoe, and then Logan Broadbent just leading Van Tonder. This is
look at how fast that lap 1 was. 7:16.7. Well. Yep, 7:16. So
I would say a little aggressive for some of these guys. Who ran 7:12?
Ryan Kempson was 7:12 for his qualifying time from round 2, so he almost matched that, and he has to do it 2 more times. So he's within his limits, but this is a hot pace. They are not slowing down at all.
Yeah, I think the heat is going to take a toll on a few guys, but right now, not this man. Ryan Kempson trying to assert himself, trying to win a title here in the Poconos.
Yep, we only saw Ryan Kempson 2 times in the National Series last year. He got 11th at Big Bear, 4th at Blue Mountain, so it was kind of a surprise that he didn't end up getting a podium in the National Series race. He is designed for this style of race, and he could easily win at this point. He probably will, but for sure he'll end up getting his first podium in a couple of years in the Spartan Series.
Well, Ryan Atkins may have something to say about the win today, and they're both starting to stretch away a little bit from this man right here, Manuel Defoe, who has been more than we expected over the course of the first 3 races of this series. He has come in and answered every question about himself.
Manuel Defoe getting 3rd in Big Bear and Palm Beach, as I mentioned before, but he was also 8th place in Abu Dhabi. So against the world's best in the super distance, he can hang with them as well. 42 years old, coming over every single time. He's had to cross the Atlantic Ocean, deal with jet lag, deal with just the effects of international travel. You did plenty of that in the past year. What he is doing and performing against the best of the best in the North American circuit is just amazing at the age of 42.
It's very impressive. It is so hard to get off a flight, a transatlantic flight, and be yourself on race day. Also makes you wonder the job flexibility this guy must have. It's unbelievable. And look at Ryan Kempson, how smooth he is through obstacles.
Is Atkins panicking right now a little bit?
No.
Not panicking, but
I think Atkins is adjusting how much output he's going to have to put out on this lap, though. I think he's starting to realize I'm going to have to rev this engine a little bit hotter than I was anticipating this early in the race. And it's a tough place to be if you're Ryan Atkins, where you have to decide whether I'm going to let this guy go and try and pull him back later and be fighting the guy in 3rd, or am I going to hit the gas now and risk getting run down by the guy who's behind me?
Yeah, it'd be great if Paul could get right up against the athletes during the barbed wire crawl, or if we could switch to Tim's camera 3 just to see some of the strategy that might be doing. But we know Kempson, he was the smoothest so far. He's going to pick the same exact line that he did before It's like going on a trail. You just kind of know where to go after you've done it a couple times. I think that's what Kempson is doing right now.
It's a really smooth line. You can see that it's not really so much a crawl. There's moments of crawling, but it's a lot of just hunched over hiking. And it's really tough on your low back. So if you have like a guy like Kempson he's experienced major hip problems in the past, and he devotes a ton of his training to hip mobility, back flexibility, like getting those muscles to work in the right way in this crouched over position. It's actually, he's very well suited for what he's going through right now.
Yeah, he does the little things. A lot of athletes do, but Kempson really drills those home. And having had an injury past, and I think that that's making a big difference. But why he's not fatiguing at the moment, and he had an 8-second gap when we saw them at the bottom of the mountain. I bet he exits this with more than an 8-second gap. If we can keep the tape, just so we see where Atkins is relative to him. We'll get a camera at the rig, I guess.
You see Tyler Veerman in the background. Oh, that is a massive change.
We're looking 15 at plus seconds.
At least. It's been a big change up at that front end. And now Ryan Kempson is putting himself one lap away from winning this thing. It's actually a 30-second gap. And I think this is the stride of a concede of defeat right here. Ryan Atkins now going to try and hold second position, it looks like. Something bad would have to happen to Ryan Kempson to swing this race.
You do have the laser pistol, though. And we saw, I believe, Alex Walker time out earlier. Some people might have a little bit more trouble than others. If Ryan gets through it really quickly and Kempson does have a little bit of struggle, even if it's not enough to make up a gap on this lap, it could at least give Atkins a little bit of hope heading into the last round or the last lap. But I think that at this moment, Kempson does not look like he's slowing down at all, despite arguably the greatest obstacle athlete of all time closing in on him.
Ryan Atkins is the most consistent athlete we've ever seen. He doesn't seem to ever have a bad race. And at the same time, he can be beaten on any day. There's nothing unbeatable about him. It's just that he is always there. He is not going to make it easy on you ever.
And we saw Kempson over the inverted wall by the time before Atkins even lifted up the gun. So that's 25 seconds right there. It's going to take an unworldly effort in order for him to make up ground on this. We can get a good perspective here. Kempson already made the hairpin turn 10, 12 seconds ago, and Atkins is just reaching the inverted wall.
This lead is stretching out rapidly, but where is Manuel Defoe? That is the real question, because Atkins is going to have to fight on that last lap if Defoe hasn't cracked, which it appears he may have, because I think for the first time in our lives we're seeing Ryan Atkins under real duress this far from the finish. He'll be fine, but he's certainly not chasing to win at this point anymore.
And everybody's first crack at this format, it's a lot harder than you realize. And Atkins has been doing 5-hour mountain races with 10,000 feet of gain. This is a far fetch from what he's been training for all year. So for him to be this close to Ryan Kempson, who's been just doing great at shorter races all season, obstacle races specifically, I think that that's a good sign for his future. But I agree. You look at that stride, that doesn't look like the type of stride where someone's trying to come back and catch him for the win. I think that he not has conceded to second place, but I think the reality is setting in that Kempson's probably separated enough.
Now, if you look closely, one of the things that you'll see on their backs are these gashes and a lot of blood. On Atkins' back, I saw a lot of blood on Ryan Kempson's back. And it forces us to ask the question, at what point is this too much on the athletes from the perspective of is this too much of a sacrifice to open up this many gashes on your back that are going to leave scars on your back for potentially the rest of your life over a race? They're more than happy to do what it takes to win that race, but it's an expensive price to pay. And I think host brought this up last week. I've been beating this road for close to a decade. When is the barbed wire going to just become wire?
I am 100% on your team on that one right there. I personally am one of the athletes who I'm just not willing to get cut up like some of these others are. I saw the backs of some athletes, men and women, at Palm Beach, and I was like, you couldn't pay me to do that. Even if it got me 10 seconds faster, that might have been the difference between advancing and not advancing, for instance. I'm not willing to do that. But I think that if you remove those barbs, it still is a barrier, but you'll see people be able to go a little bit less tentative, and you want to see fast. You want to see fearless. You don't want to give people a reason to slow down. I would be totally fine getting rid of the barbs.
Now, one of the things we want to point out, not to change the subject, but Atkins is now 35 seconds behind Kempson, so he lost 30 seconds or so on that lap. Dufault lost about 20 to Atkins, and then Van Tonder has moved up to fourth, followed by Balin Bean, Hawk Call in sixth, McCready sitting in seventh, and Broadbent has fallen all the way to ninth. So you're seeing some big shakeups. This is now the shuffling of the deck is beginning. The cracking is beginning. Broadbent clearly has cracked. Azar's now 3:16 behind. I mean, these are big gaps. We saw 41 seconds between first and 10th in the previous heat. And now we're seeing 3 minutes between first and 10th.
You just described it perfectly. People are just dropping like flies at the moment. You saw Atkins, he was 7:20 something first lap and 18s this time. He was almost 50 seconds slower, and he has arguably the greatest endurance in this format on the entire planet. The conditions are getting the worst of people, and I think that you're going to start seeing people fade a little bit more. Manuel Defoe, what's he, 10 seconds behind at the moment? I still think those are going to be your 1, 2, 3, the current position. But we saw Balin Bean in fifth place. He could move up to fourth if Thomas Van Tonder starts feeling the effects of the weather like almost everybody else has.
Well, this man right here can smell it now as he's going to be heading up toward the climb. The barbed wire crawl. This is really it for Ryan Kempson. If he can stretch this lead just a little more, he might even be safe to take a penalty. The real battle is going to be yeah, nobody wants that penalty, but can Manuel Defoe keep Atkins close enough to give himself a shot? Because it looks like it's these three and then a sizable gap back to the next group.
Yeah, so I was one of the cameramen during the finals for Big Bear. Manuel Defoe was about 15 seconds or so down from Tyler Veerman heading into the last lap, and they had that sprint finish and basically were a half second apart from each other. So Manuel has shown on the final lap he is capable of making up a 15-second gap, and that's almost what we're seeing right here. He has more to win than lose at this point. Just go for it. I think we're going to see a great finish between those two.
Defoe looks very strong right now. Like, I thought he was fading, and the more I watch him and his stride and the way he's moving, I think that he has got a kick left in him. This is the man of the hour. No one is catching Ryan Kempson.
Atkins just entered a couple seconds ago at the base of the hill. I'm willing to bet Kempson's done with 3/4 of this at this point.
He's very close, and when he comes out of it, he shows no signs of fatiguing out right now. Now, he is one of those athletes who can really roll at his red line and just stay there, as well as almost anybody. We've seen that look of those sunken eyes, those where he's got nothing left, and he just his cheeks are bouncing around, and he looks like he's on the verge of passing out. And he can run through that for a sustained period. I don't see that look on his face. I don't see that in his body language. He looks more comfortable than I expected at this point in the race.
Yeah, he looks like he could go several more rounds of this. I'm sure he doesn't want to. The pain that this guy is going through, and every athlete in this field at the moment, like, he's staggering a little bit right there, still powering through. But I'm sure Ryan Kempson is counting down the seconds until his race is over so he can stop.
And there's Van Tonder, Samuel Hebert, and Tyler McCready in their own little battle. McCready's a guy that over the years I've had so many tight finishes with. This guy's a gamer. He just knows how to do it.
All right, here's the moment. Kempson gets through. I see no reason why he wouldn't. He's got this victory, and I'll let you take it home.
Yep. so close for Ryan Kempson right now, the man who didn't think that he was going to even race today. Yet here he is, a laser pistol away from winning the third race in the North American Elite Series.
So I'm peek down the hill just a little bit, just to make sure. Done.
And he's nailed it. And there you have it. This man, Ryan Kempson, making his way into the last obstacle, the inverted wall, and then a downhill finish, cruising his way, making it look actually pretty easy for the championship today.
Yeah, Ryan Kempson, he won the OCR World Championship last year in the 15K, asserted himself a couple of years ago as one of the men to beat. And this performance right here, VJ Jones was dominant, Rylan Shadig was dominant, Ryan Kempson has been dominant. Every single win on the men's side so far this year has been just domination, and Ryan Kempson continues.
Well, Ryan Kempson, your winner on the day here in the Poconos, taking home the title at Blue Mountain for the North American 3K Elite Series.
And no sign of Ryan Atkins in the picture. I'm willing to bet as soon as we see them, we will, if we can get up to the laser area, someone over there, that'd be great. Okay, there
he is, Ryan Atkins making his move. Welcome back, Ryan Atkins. Second place today. Not a bad way to return to the sport after being away for a little bit. And you know what? Like he said, not sure about this format quite yet, but I'm going to go out there and fight like hell. And, I mean, he did. Look at this. He's smiling. Second place today for Ryan Atkins is a good place to be.
Yep. And next month in Mexico City, they're going to be having the Pan American Championship where they will be offering prize money for both the 3K division and the Beast. Ryan Atkins, now that he has this 3K experience, you know the Beast is really up his wheelhouse. I have a feeling we'll end up seeing him there without knowing for sure at the moment, but he's probably ready to win some money there next month.
Yes, he absolutely is. And
third time's a charm.
Manuel Defoe.
Three third places.
That is consistency. I will say, Manuel Defoe flying across the Atlantic 3 times, taking third 3 times. Can't argue with the results. This man is legit.
Absolutely. And he's done it against a different field every single time. You had Tyler Veerman and Rylan Shadig last time. You had VJ Jones, Alvaro Vasquez the first time, and now Ryan Kempson, Ryan Atkins. Doesn't matter who shows up, he's third place. So congratulations, Manuel.
And 3 very distinctly different courses. The first one being a pure raw speed race, flat and fast. The second, based around those heavy carries, a lot more running, climbing. The third, today, a really good mix of climbing and carries, but that crawl making a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that it's great that the races have not been the same format every single time. As you mentioned, you had a low crawl, you had a tougher rig during the first one, you had some water crossings. The second, that was in Palm Beach, the second course, you had double sandbag unexpectedly, no rig, no barbed wire crawl. This time you kind of had components of everything. So you're really seeing a good variety, weather, obstacle-wise, terrain-wise, this whole season so far. So good job on Spartan.
I was Adam Beach right there looking exhausted. And these 3 look like they could go another round. Do you want to watch another race?
Let's do it. Now we've got the women's race, and they probably saw 3 separators. So I think that if I'm not expecting the podium, but I'm or not to win, but I'm in potentially getting on the podium, I might pace myself after seeing how far some of the athletes fell back after the first lap.
Yeah, and if you're looking to win this thing, Ryan Kempson won it wire to wire, essentially. So, there's something to note. He went hard and held it. Atkins went with him, held second. Defoe went with him, held third. And the rest of the field kind of crumbled behind them. Will that be how the women's race shakes out? I'm not sure, but Lindsay Webster, Lauren Weeks, Alex Walker, Yana Popova, Allie Tippett, Ida.
I think Lauren Griffin's in there.
Here's your women's field, and here's how it shook out. Rugloski and Webster 5 seconds apart on the previous race. Alex Walker only 15 seconds behind them. Ida 2 seconds behind her. Tippett 6 seconds behind her. I mean, we are in for it.
Come around here, go back up.
This is going to be so good. Alex has not been in the same heat as Chris or Lindsay so far. So I think she's going to assert herself and make it a three-headed monster at the front.
So, again,
keep in mind, there's only 8 women standing here at the start line right now. So there is a much better chance of ending up in the money in this race. If you are sitting there in that 4th or 5th position, you have to be very thoughtful about how you run this race. You can't just go out there and try and blow the doors off the front end. There's an opportunity to lurk and hunt.
If I'm willing to bet, Lauren Weeks is going to be at the lead at the top of this first climb.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. And I could see someone like an Ida trying to sit back a little bit more and pick people off.
Yeah.
Running more in that middle pack.
Yeah, let's switch over to Tim's camera. There we go. I agree. Ida tends to be patient. Yeah, you can just see this is a lot steeper than you realize. It looks steep on the camera, so I can imagine out there in person, this just must feel like a grind.
This has been the start line area of races in the past. It's also been the finish of races on this course in the past. It's a great feeling to run down this at the end. And in the beginning, you're fresh. You feel good climbing up an incline like this. The real nasty climbs on this mountain are about a quarter mile further up. We're not even getting to them. But you were right. There's Lauren Weeks, but that's also Ida sitting in second. She took that climb pretty hard.
Yeah,
Lauren's ability to get into her flat ground running though is very impressive.
Yeah, I was going to mention Lauren running. She did a decafit earlier this year. Nicole Miracle did as well. Lauren was only 5 seconds slower than her cumulatively across 5K for all those runs. So Lauren has some wheels, especially when fatigue starts setting in. So she might not even be feeling the effects of this at the moment. She always does that.
Lauren has great compromised running. If we could take that Nat audio
Jason,
down.
can you mute that? Jason, can you mute Tim? Thank you.
Lauren has just excellent compromised running. So we talk about her mod, for example. It's favorite term. And her ability to run up straight up 5K isn't remotely close to what Nicole Miracle has, but her ability to run it under duress is very, very high.
Absolutely. And Ida's making a move right here. This might be the first day that Lauren Weeks has ever done a double sandbag. She is, without question, strong enough to get through it without it affecting her. She's one of probably the strongest athlete in the field in terms of actual power, but technique is what makes a difference in this type of obstacle. And Ida had experience in Big Bear and a couple rounds beforehand. I think she figured it out, and there's a reason she's at the front right now.
Weeks is one of those athletes where she can sit at her red line and just stay there, and it doesn't make sense. Like when you watch it, you're like, I don't know how she's doing this. And it looks like she's pushing her limits, and then all of a sudden she's just fine.
Where is Chris? I know it's very early on, but I expected Chris to kind of just be right there from the start. Although she made up time on the Z wall, so we might see her pop into the picture very shortly.
There she is. She just got on the Z wall. She's only a few seconds back.
Over.
I mean, the grand scheme, a few seconds at the front end of this race is not going to hurt you.
No.
Unless you push it too much.
Wow.
Overdoing it will hurt you much more than underrunning. But again, the cluster is much tighter than it was in previous heats.
I think Lindsay got off there in 6th place. She got in there second. Or 3rd place.
Now look at Ida's stride. Ida is braking very hard, and you're going to see Walker, Webster, and Rogloski fly. They are going to go with the hill a little bit more than Ida is right there. Ida's heel striking quite a bit. Like she's resisting with her quads, and look at that. Look at that gap close.
Lindsay. Yep. Oh, no, that was Chris on the outside. Lindsay.
The downhill.
No, that was Lindsay.
The downhill talent of Lindsay Webster and Chris Rogloski on display.
I agree. I think add Alex Walker right there, and you have probably the 3 best downhill runners in the females field right now.
Now look at
Lauren
Lindsay
hanging
Webster.
with them.
I mean, Lauren Weeks staying with them.
Yep.
And like I said before, this is a better format. The 3 laps is a much better format for Lauren Weeks than a 1 single lap. this is an opportunity for her to grind a little bit more, which she prefers.
Now, if I'm Chris Rogloski, I'm doing everything I can to get off this monkey bars right before Lindsay so that you can do that block strategy or slow down strategy that you mentioned. I don't think Chris will do it maliciously, but if she can control the pace a little bit, that would work out for her. But I don't think it's going to.
She definitely got in there in front of her.
Ahead. Just got ahead.
So passing is the hard part. It's finding that one spot to slip by so that you can accelerate, but you have to use so much energy to make a pass in a situation like this. You might have to go and take the wider lane that you don't want, and there's the pass. And what Chris has done is now Lindsay got blocked, and Chris can actually gap her a little. That was a great move by Lindsay as well, and she's actually taking the lead now.
We have 3 of the best female OCR athletes on the planet right now, separated by about 2 seconds in the hardest barbed wire crawl we might have ever seen. This is exactly what we wanted in the 3K format.
I'm just going to say it right now. This race is already better than the men's race. Let's go. I'm hyped.
Let's go. Who's going to go with Lindsay?
Lindsay Webster pushing it.
Yeah, Ida, I think she got out front knowing that she might lose a little bit of ground in the barbed wire, but it was still the right thing to do, and she is fit enough and accomplished enough to deserve to be right up there. I think that Lindsay's being intentional right now, and she's going to just crush this next climb to create a little separation after the barbed wire.
I'm honestly surprised that she has crawled as well as she has today, but Lindsay Webster is definitely showing that there was a reason that she was winning all those world championships. You know, it's not just because she can run. She's got more in her arsenal, and we're seeing it right now. And I think Ida's strategy was very good to get out there and block and obstruct the best. Slow them down a little bit on the front end of this. She just wasn't able to prevent the pass, and now she's just going to bleed time.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, coming in, Lindsay got there in 3rd place, and she's going to have a 10-second gap at least exiting. Another thing to consider, Lindsay, she hasn't been doing obstacle racing, but she's been doing a lot of sky running. And there's a lot of scrambling there. You're on all fours. You're going up some steep terrain. Mm-hmm. She might have, indirectly been practicing for a steep uphill barbed wire just by simply doing sky running.
There's our man Steve Hammond in the background right there. For you fans at home who love our favorite Brit, no, he's not drunk. He just seems like he is. Steve Hammond.
Wait till he hears this.
That's a big gap that we have already. Lindsay Webster put all of that in the barbed wire. But, again, she's going to lose some of that time on this rig all 3 laps. She lost time previously in the laser pistol. So Chris Rogloski is going to close where she can.
Lindsay didn't have a fast laser pistol last time. And seeing Chris getting up high right here, that is a little surprising because she usually swings in between obstacles, as she's doing right there with one arm. Ida, much more efficient right there, using less energy.
That was not a good rig by Chris Rogloski, by her standards. She's now a full laser pistol and then some behind.
With an unobstructed
one thing that people
about to do it downhill.
One thing that people don't realize about running this format is that the pump in your arms is a real thing. That doing this many grip-intensive obstacles and swinging over walls and hanging from rigs and climbing ropes, it cumulatively adds up, and your arms become pumped full of blood, and it can have a major impact on your ability to complete obstacles smoothly and quickly later in the race. We're only on lap 1.
David, I texted Steve after all the damage set in after doing the Big Bear 3K. That genuinely was probably the biggest pump I've ever had in my arms, and we didn't even have a rig. You just had a rope climb, Hercules, double sandbag carry, couple small things, but the pump in my arms, I had never felt anything like that in a race, even though it wasn't a super grip intensive course on the surface. So I totally agree. Now that we're setting into lap 2, you have a couple really good grip athletes, Ida and Chris, and Lindsay. Usually, she's not known for like amazing grip strength, but she gets through obstacles. I think that you're going to start seeing people fail.
Well, Ryan Atkinson Sunto right down there where Chris Rogloski is. Chris is hiking. Actually. Oh, it's the new one, the young one.
Yep.
Chris is hiking. Lindsay is running so smoothly right now. This is the look of someone who is made the transition into professional sky running.
Just effortless. We've said it so many years. Her patented look is just to look effortless. And Lindsay does not look like she is leading a race and just put on a 30-second gap since the last like 2 minutes gap. It's amazing what she's doing. And if we can mute camera 3, Jason, that'd be good. Just keep it muted. Yeah, Lindsay looking effortless. She did not struggle to get over the Irish table, which I thought had the potential to cause some people, shorter athletes specifically, a little bit of trouble there. But it hasn't seemed to have an effect there.
Yeah, Lindsay is really one of one right now, and I expected to see Chris Rogloski challenge her a bit more here, but Chris looked to be struggling a little on the start of that second lap, and Ida looked like she was hunting, like she was charging, not the other way around.
Yeah, let's not count Chris out. She won last race. She has the best endurance in the females field, and remember, we saw last race Allie Tippett's kind of just crack a little bit, and then she regained composure and ended up finishing in second place. I don't think it's over for Chris in terms of second place, but you can see this gap. Lindsay's almost done with the double sandbag carry before any other woman enters the screen. So yeah, there's a notable separation of talent right there.
Yeah, Chris doesn't look terrible. I'm not saying she looks bad, but Ida looks like she's moving a little smoother, which is surprising to me.
I agree. Yeah, but I think the two of them are going to have a heck of a battle, and I don't see any other women sneaking up into the top 3 at this point. There's separation, just like in the men's field. You saw Manuel and both of the Ryans head to the front. I think that these 3 women kind of asserted themselves, and they're not going to look back.
The one thing I will say is this format opens the door for mistakes. We saw that in the men's field. How many men that we thought were major contenders that could have won this whole thing failed an obstacle somewhere? Guys that we don't see fail obstacles. Men like Ryland Shadegg, who all of a sudden find themselves out of it because they weren't able to run clean on it. This format does change that. It does run the risk.
Yeah, and we're looking at not necessarily a failure, but Chris probably ate up 5 seconds again on Lindsay's lead on the Z-wall. She's very proficient at this. If I was Lindsay reassessing my race, looking afterward, of course, not failing something and avoiding a penalty loop is always going to be quicker, but I would get some practice on the Z-wall so that she doesn't lose 5 seconds next time. Like there are things that she can improve on a little bit. And Chris is able to make up a little bit of time, for instance, on certain obstacles. So that would be just like one area that Lindsay might want to work on for next time, but otherwise she's kind of running a flawless race so far.
Yeah, I mean, this format doesn't necessarily allow you to attack obstacles the way that you would in a normal race, because rather than the obstacles being a reprieve from hard running in a race like this, you are basically trying to get through that obstacle quick, but you're hurting so bad you're almost just trying not to fail it.
Yeah. What do you think's going through Lindsay's head right now that she probably has seen on the opposite side of the hill? She's created a good separation. She definitely is the fastest mover in the barbed wire crawl so far today, and now she's got that no one ahead of her. Do you think she's just going to try to throw on an insurmountable lead on this, or kind of coast and leave something in the tank just in case?
The vibe I got on those first 6 or 7 steps into the barbed wire was she's attacking this climb, that she can end the race on this climb essentially, and then she can basically have a training run on the final lap. But don't count Chris out. She doesn't stop. But look how close it is now to Ida. Like if you're Chris, you're more running for your life than hunting at this point.
Yeah, I'd be curious who's in 4th place right now. Is it going to be Allie, Lauren, Alex? But right now, the story of the race is Lindsay Webster just opening a huge lead after the barbed wire on lap 1, and now she's just extending it, probably doubling her lead since last time.
It's interesting. She was nowhere near that lead pack on the opening climb. She let them go. And you're seeing that the compounding damage that all these athletes took pushing hard to get near the front. Like now Lindsay waited till the downhill and the barbed wire crawl to move up. And if you use your energy to get up there on the climbs, now you're paying the price for that.
Yep. Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see if Lindsay has enough of a lead at this point. I don't think she's going to fail a rig or have any trouble anywhere on the rest of the course, but it would be interesting to see if she has enough of a gap. So currently 17 seconds after lap 1, I'm willing to bet that's in the 30s at this point. So she's almost at the point where she is able to overcome a 200-meter penalty loop if it ends up happening. But Allie Tippett's in 4th place, showing that last race in Big Bear, her 2nd place finish was no fluke. And look who's just ahead of her by about 30 seconds, Ida. And Ida ended up having a great battle with her over the last 2 laps in Big Bear before Allie came out ahead.
I'm not sure that math is right on the differentials, but but at the same time, it's close. One thing that we're seeing is Alex Walker is way back. It was not expected. I did not anticipate that, and I wonder if there was a failure somewhere because she was over a minute back after lap 1, and she was in the mix going into that barbed wire crawl.
We didn't see her on the opening climb either. She normally starts out pretty hot as well. You're not expecting anybody to go out faster than Lauren Weeks realistically, but I would have expected her based on her seed times to maybe at least be close enough to be in contact. But yeah,
we saw her at the bottom of the first descent, and she was in that lead pack, and all of a sudden she was gone. So I'm not sure if that occurred on the barbed wire, if she got injured, if she failed something. We will try and get answers as they come to us. But right now, story of the day is the return of the champ right here. Lindsay Webster hasn't missed a beat.
She got those done in 5 seconds.
Didn't miss a shot.
Jesus. Sniping it.
Like she doesn't show any signs of fatigue either. Lindsay Webster is heading over the inverted wall to finish up her 2nd of 3 laps here in the Poconos on Blue Mountain. North American Elite Series. Takes 8 months off, comes back, leads after 2 laps fairly
I think 8
handily.
months off might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, 8 months off OCR.
Yeah, I think you're right. She's not vacationing during that. She doesn't have her feet up in a lounge chair on the side of a yacht.
She's been racing some of the world's best.
She's running races. Did you see that? She just dumped water down her back. So, I mean, she's feeling the heat, but she's managing it incredibly well.
I agree. It looks like maybe Lauren Griffith on the monkey bars right now. A little hard to tell.
Very deliberate. So cautious right now. Her hands, she looked at her hand right there. Maybe she tore a little blister open, a little callus.
Here's Chris. Looks like she got through the laser pistol pretty quickly, but that gap, we're at 40 plus seconds at this point over from Lindsay ahead of her. Lindsay went 8:10, I believe, on the first lap. I wonder when we get splits for lap 2 to see how much she slowed or stayed consistent. But I bet a lot of the rest of the field is 30 plus seconds slower.
You have a legitimate battle here between Ida and Chris Roglowski, and I would love to get the camera back on that battle because what we have as she comes around this turn, she hiked the last one. She started to run and then she turned it to a hike, and Ida made up some time on that ascent, and there she's hiking again. This is going to be an interesting moment because if Ida can close that gap and pull up next to her, there's a chance that Ida could turn this thing, really swing the mental advantage in her own favor.
And there's Chris hiking right away, and Ida opted for the Lindsay decision where she put some cold water on her. She went a little bit farther instead of just going right into the climb. She would have, if she avoided the water, had a 12-second gap, but now it's up to 17 seconds. But Chris is power hiking, as she's known to do, and Ida is just stalking her right behind, and we'll see if she's able to close in on this climb like you were mentioning.
It looks to me like she took that 5 seconds back already. I think when we get to the top, I would not be surprised if that gap is down to 3 or 4 seconds.
Yep, sandbag carry as well. We know that Chris had a fantastic sandbag carry in Big Bear. That was the big separator, and she was very good during the opening rounds here as well. I wonder if Ida is going to use that to her advantage to really try to close the gap and then just essentially be tied and make it a race from the sandbag carry on out.
Well, Chris has made it to the top. She's opening up that stride, and I will say that hike does give her the opportunity when she comes off that climb to open up a little bit, that she's able to bring that breathing and that heart rate back under control, keep some of the lactic acid out of the legs.
Yeah,
But let's
Chris
see what we got gap wise.
She knows her body, so she that was probably a very informed decision on why she decided to power hike there.
Yeah, you're looking at about 12 seconds still.
1933 versus 1946. So yeah, 12, 13 seconds at the moment. We have Thomas Van Tonder recording Ida right there. He was the 4th place finisher, I believe, in the men's field. So let's see how it goes. Let's switch to camera 3 to see Ida. Allie Tippett's.
Well, that's Alex Walker. So Alex Walker's moving back up. So my assumption is she must have failed an obstacle somewhere, and now she's making the move back up into the mix. It may be too late for Alex Walker to get back on that podium, but she's going to fight like heck to get back into that top 4.
All right, so we have Ida on the double sandbag carry. Lindsay, wow, she has that much of a gap on everybody. That's unreal. And going into her specialty of downhill, it's going to be tough to see what happens. Let's switch over to camera 3 to get a gap on the sandbag carry. So Chris has both of the sandbags on one side, which is what she did in Big Bear. So not really surprised right there. She's dropping it at 20:53 into the race. And let's get a split on Ida to see how far back she is. So she made up 2 seconds on that sandbag carry versus the top of the hill at Iris Tables. So closing in slightly. We'll see what happens. I do remember that Ida was notably faster on the rig, but she was notably slower on the crawl. So those two might cancel each other out. So at this moment, I would say Chris has a slight edge.
Yeah, and Chris is a better climber through the barbed wire. So it really comes down to, has she burned all her matches? Does she have anything left? Because that's really the big story for her. And Ida, can she get through these obstacles cleanly and quickly? Because one of the issues is she's just running out of places to make up time. You know, she can pull back a second here, a second there, but she needs a big jump somewhere.
Yeah, and Chris is already at the bottom of the hill at rope climb by the time that Ida got off. We saw how efficient Chris was on Z-Wall earlier, and she just used it to her advantage again to create more separation. She's at the rope climb as we speak.
Yes, and Lindsay Webster now into that final uphill barbed wire crawl, that barbed wire crawl from hell.
Lindsay's got to be feeling good about herself at the moment. And Ida is running with a purpose right now. She's probably lost a few seconds now. It's down to about 15 seconds. So she gained a little on the double sandbag, but lost it all.
She gains here as well. She gains on that rope climb every time as well. She's very fast up the rope climb. Notably, she climbed a rope out of the water to the top of the Opera House in Copenhagen. So she knows how to climb ropes incredibly well.
Yep. And she has another teammate, Thomas Van Tonder from South Africa, who holds the world record for the fastest 50-meter rope climb. That's insane. So yeah, you've got two of the best rope climbers in the world here during this race.
It's unbelievable. And now the real race is on, because you have your second athlete, Chris Rogloski, hitting the barbed wire. We'll get a timer on that.
Oh,
did her hair just get caught? Is that what we just saw?
Go to camera 2.
I think there was a moment. Her hair snagged for a moment, but she's free. But that gap is still close.
Ida's entering.
It's less than 15 seconds.
I'm glad she didn't get stuck there, because that would have just been unfortunate that would be a deciding factor. Yeah. But it did look like a couple seconds she did have to stay there and make sure her hair got out.
It also just, it makes you hesitate a little bit. Something like that. You know, if it happens once, you're worried it's going to happen again. But Chris Rogloski is pretty fearless, so she's going to stay aggressive on this climb. Lindsey Webster is nearly out at this point.
So Lindsey is exiting at 24:02. She's probably going to finish in about 26 minutes or so overall. Oh, even she's power hiking, so feeling the exhaustion a little bit.
Feeling the heat. And now you'll see her start to run. Watching about 3 or 4 more steps, she'll make that transition.
I bet Lindsey actually is trying to lower her heart rate heading into the rig so that she 100% makes it through.
This is brutal. You're watching Ida's at her. She's on the rivet. You can tell the way she is moving. She's got just so little left in the tank.
Having to do that.
Look at this rope climb. Look how brutal this is.
Yeah, Allie Tippett's finishing up, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, imagine Lauren, 250 meters of uphill, nasty, sloppy, just rolling barbed wire. Like, they're not going to want to look at any of that for a long time after this race.
Lindsey Webster just saying, no mistakes, please. And she made none. And now she's through the last real failable obstacle out on this course. As Alex Walker looks like she's moved back up into the 4th place position.
Lindsey taking a little bit longer. Last time it seemed like she got 3 shots, 3 hits right away. But no harm, no foul there. She's going to take it home for the win. I'll let you take it in, David.
Lindsey Webster, yeah, she nailed those shots. I think she was relieved to get them. She seems pretty happy. She's still smiling, just like we said, always smiling out there on the course. But after a little hiatus, Lindsey Webster is back scaling that inverted wall. Don't have a shot of it.
Camera 3, maybe.
But a little hiatus, and Lindsey Webster has returned to win race 3 in the Spartan North American Elite Series. Your champion on the day, Lindsey Webster, once again. Who else?
26 minutes and 10 seconds of pain, and welcome back to the OCR world. Lindsey Webster won her 18th straight Spartan race, and that is continuing her record. The old record used to be 16. I don't know when she's going to lose again, but if we see her in Mexico, good luck to everybody else.
Now, this is the race. Look at the gap shrinking here. They're both on the rig. I mean, now you're looking at it is going to come down to good shots.
Oh, I thought Ida fell off.
And then a sprint.
That was so close.
Everything she's got left. Does Chris hit her shots accurately? Is there a chance for a pass here? Chris is out.
Let's stay with him. Cameraman, run with him until the bottom.
Do not lose this 2nd place finish.
All the
that
way
is
to the
a
bottom.
Kick right now. This is Chris Rogloski emptying the tanks because she knows the downhill will carry me home. I got to kick to this wall. I'm up and over, and 1 descent to the finish. Chris Rogloski going for that 2nd place finish. She's going to take it. Another great showing out of Chris Rogloski. 2nd place here today.
About a minute 20 behind Lindsey. Heck of a performance, honestly. She won last time. 2nd place this time. Chris is the real deal. Taking down Ida with an amazing another podium coming from Europe.
3rd place for Ida. Just showing, again, the range of talent around the world right now. It's such a global sport. As we're looking at Lindsey Webster. We'll pull up the results real quick. So we're looking at Lauren Weeks. Excuse me. This is our lap 2
Let's see how
results.
Much athletes. So Lindsey slowed down about 25 seconds on lap number 2, and she looked very comfortable. The rest of the field, if we only have 5 athletes finished at this point in lap 2,
we had 3 or 4 drops. We had 4 drops after the 2nd lap or on the 2nd lap. They just said, you know what, I'm tapping out. So Alex Walker just continued to stay on it.
Yeah, I think the results.
Or they're just not done because this is. There we go. Here we get our results. Okay. All those drops have been surprising, especially with Lauren Weeks out there. So Griffith, But look at these times.
Some chaos.
13:40.
Lauren Weeks, who has probably the best engine in this field overall, like in terms of just you beat her up and she can keep going at other races. She just walked 50 feet from the end of the monkey bars to the start of the barbed wire. She's exhausted. The heat's playing a toll.
The heat.
And this race was just see how long you can survive. Looks like fourth place we have Alex Walker finishing up, and I think she's going to get through this no problem. Yep.
So Alex Walker battled her way back from ninth all the way back to fourth. So clearly she failed something, had some kind of issue in the opening lap.
You've got Allie and Yanka. Allie better get on this. Fifth place right here. She was waiting for Alex to finish before she even attempted to get it. And now you're going to have a battle to see who can shoot the laser pistol first, assuming that they both make through this, get over a wall and sprint to the finish. Yanka made it through.
Oh, we've got a battle now.
Stay with them all the way to the finish as well. We got to see this.
This is the battle of the day.
Alex completed it. We saw her take off, but here's fifth. Yanka over first.
Oh, this is devastating if you're Allie Tippett right now. She got timed out.
Yeah, she's stuck there.
Allie got timed out.
Yanka Popova, who ended up finishing fourth in Big Bear, second in Palm Beach. She is going to make it 3 separate top 5 finishes coming over from Europe. An amazing performance once again by Yanka Popova.
That's a really tough beat for Allie Tippett, but hats off to Alex Walker on that fourth place finish because she earned it, running herself back into this race. She was something like 2 minutes behind coming off the first lap.
Definitely, and
Allie ran herself back.
Allie Tippett, she's probably going to be a little disappointed at this, but she was just one laser pistol away from another top 5 finish at a National Series race after a relatively surprise second place showing in Big Bear. She is emerged and is a real contender within 3 seconds of Alex Walker and beating some very high level athletes once again.
You did. We missed Yanka finishing as well, but
she was about 10 seconds behind Alex. So it looked like maybe slightly less. Lauren Griffith here on camera. Let's see if she's definitely taken her time. I believe she was 7th place, the first one out of the finals at Big Bear last time. And she might be in 8th place right now because Lauren Weeks is slightly ahead of her. So she will be rounding out the finals. Slow and steady, but you can tell the heat is definitely, and she might have ripped her hands. You mentioned that last lap, and she keeps looking down at them. So I have a feeling
she's having a hard time with those hands. And that's one of the things when you get these really hot metal, you combine that with how much they're sweating, and your skin becomes really raisiny, for lack of a better term. And then you combine that with just how many grip strength obstacles they have. You can rip, and when you rip, like on conditions like this, it's bad. And you combine that with, you see her not trying to put that left hand into the mud. She's putting her knuckles down on the ground. She's trying to avoid getting mud deep into the wounds that she has on that hand.
Most people would think, oh, I lost my grip, so now rigs are going to be hard. But look at this. Every single time you have to make contact with your hands to continue through the barbed wire crawl. You have to do a rope climb. You have to get over an inverted wall. You have to grip the laser pistol. So it's not just the rig that you're worrying about. It's so many more components of the course involve grip than you realize. And Lauren wanting this thing to be over.
She is hurting. I mean, this is an incredible amount of pain that you're seeing a world champion in right now, and that is the heat and has just taken its toll. And she went hard on that opening lap, and she is feeling the pain that we were worried that those who went hard would feel. But Lauren Weeks, the champion, will finish.
Yep. And she's taken down some, Julie Best, who ended up getting 3rd in Palm Beach, did not make the finals. And Ashley Heller, she's had a couple top 5 performances in National Series in the past, I believe. So she's taken down some really accomplished OCR athletes in only her second race in the past couple of years. And her last race was this past weekend. So she's rusty in the OCR circuit, but heck of a performance once again, even if the heat looks like it's getting to her at the end. Oh,
You
we've
just
got
want
the
to see her
champ
finish
here.
this one strong.
Yeah, we'll get through Lauren, and then we'll switch over to the men's champion.
Now, Lauren Weeks over here wrapping up this obstacles. We're being joined right now by your champion on the day, the man who didn't even think he was going to race, and yet here he is, Ryan Kempson. Good to see you, bud.
Hey, David. What's up, Jack?
How are you?
Yeah, congrats on a very impressive win.
Thank you. Hot. We got lucky. The clouds rolled in for the final heat. It definitely cooled down slightly. Made it a little bit more manageable. 3 laps is quite the duty on the body of this course.
So how did it feel? Because, we were noting that you went out hard. And we said, it's possible if somebody goes out hard on this, they explode pretty epically. But you looked smooth the entire way.
Yep, the beginning hurt, but I learned in the first heat, even though I went slower than I did in the second, it was a pretty big advantage getting to the sandbag first. You're gassed, but then you can kind of put it on cruise control, and getting in the barbed wire first, you kind of cruise as well. And I honestly think that's where the race was kind of separated. I'm the smallest of the top 4 guys, and had a clean line every time through that. So I think that was a big advantage.
Yeah, we
We were
noticed
talking
that
about
you were
the big athletes who were trying to get up front in front of you and then block a little bit in the barbed wire. So obviously you knew that was coming.
Yeah, question
Yeah,
for you, Ryan.
I was.
So it looked like.
Yep.
Go ahead. I was going to say, it looked like you kind of got up and like peeked around and were looking at your line and stuff. Did you take the same line every single time? You kind of learned the quickest path, or were you kind of improvising every single time?
Nope. When I scouted the course for the race, there was a ton of water that they spread on the left side, so that's no go. And there was a line straight up the right side that avoided. There's a couple X's of wood that block paths and some low spots, and it was pretty smooth sailing through that line. So I think it made a big difference.
I do not know.
Oh, you don't know?
Did you get a couple lacerations on your back that we saw there? A few bleeders?
Yeah, I think I was more worried about my hair getting caught. It got caught a couple times. I didn't even feel my back.
You really grew that thing out, man. You look like you haven't trimmed it since COVID.
Nope, I keep saying I'm going to. I'm trying to reenact a picture my dad had when he was about my age. Yeah, he was much stronger than I was. Big old diesel biceps, and he's got a picture on like a hot rod car with long-legged overalls with no shirt on, leaning against these big glasses and this fro out to here. So I'm going for that.
It's gonna be a good look.
And and we were saying that you definitely have the advantage of having trained in these conditions, being like an East Coast guy. Did this feel kind of familiar?
Yeah, I've noticed that over the years when the guys from the West Coast come out. I think it's very similar advantage to racing at for the guys. Like I'm not at altitude, so when I go out west to race at altitude, I think it's a very comparable deficit for them to come in at.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on the depth of the field? It seemed like, despite not showing up to the first couple races, it seemed like everybody wanted a chance. You had a lot of real big contenders show up. 7 different nations, 7 previous National Series podium finishers showed up to here. It looked like the good old days. What were your thoughts on that?
It was great. I much prefer racing the Savage races I've been doing. I literally didn't make a call to come until 12 o'clock today. My brother's 2 hours away, and I just was like, I kind of got an itch to race today. It was exciting. So it was fun having a deep field again. Girls' field is real good. Oh wait, what side do you want? Girls crushed it as well. I think it's exciting for as much as I love other races. I don't care where we show up. I just want people to come race again, and kind of throw down. So, hand you over to these girls.
Ladies.
Congrats, Ryan.
Yo.
Hey, Chris.
Welcome, Chris Rogloski. How do you feel? I can't hear you.
Uh-oh, no audio.
Jason, can we get audio?
It's working fine.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Me in now?
Hey, Chris, how you feeling? Yeah, we're good.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little tired out. I'm glad I still have some hair. That barbed wire. I think I started getting more and more lazy in it and like not ducking my head down enough. And I've never gotten my hair and my clothes snagged that many times in barbed wire.
We saw you get snagged on that third lap, and like right at the beginning of the barbed wire, it looked like you snagged right there. Was there a worse one?
I snagged a lot. Yeah, there was, I think on the second qualifying round, I was running quite a bit, not quite a bit, but a good bit ahead. I got snagged and stuck there, and it wasn't until Lindsay caught up and actually like untangled my hair that I was able to keep going. So that was one of the worst. But then I got another one, like it got all my hair chucked up in there, and I had to kind of maneuver to get it out.
Did you say? Did
Yeah.
you say she unsnagged your hair, or you unsnagged your hair?
Mm-hmm. Lindsay saved my life. I'd still be in that barbed wire.
She helped you?
Yeah.
We were talking about that, the rule, which is like another racer can help you, but a volunteer cannot.
Oh, okay. So that is a rule because somebody said that, like, oh, you guys are both DQ'd. And I was like, well, like, I don't know, like.
That happened to Lindsay at a race in Asheville, I think, maybe 5-6 years ago. So I guess returning full circle, helping someone else out.
Okay, good. Yeah. It was. I think the barbed wire crawl was really fun the first time, and then not so great the other time. But I just got worse at keeping my head down. So.
I'm stunned that we are seeing for the first time ever Chris Roglaski did not have fun during a race.
Yeah, it's not so fun getting your hair snagged. But
yeah. What about the heat?
I've fun on a downhill.
The
heat feels fantastic. I am a heat person. Yeah, I love
fantastic.
The heat. So it wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting to see strategy because during the qualifying round, you saw some really fast times. Was it intentional to try to beat Lindsay during lap 2 when the two of you were next to each other on the laser pistol, just to kind of like know you can do it? Because physically you're able to, obviously, but like I'm sure that's a confidence boost having that happen. Was that in your mind?
A little bit. That was the one where like I was running in front of her. I think I passed them on the Z wall or something. Came into the rope first. Got monkey bars and started in the barbed wire before her and Lauren. I think it was Lauren that was right behind us in that same wave.
Round 2.
But then that was where I got snagged in the barbed wire and she caught up to me in the barbed wire. So it was a little bit more like we were kind of right together already. And I didn't want to like lose that. I didn't want to lose that closeness, I guess. Like I didn't want to just let her take off. Yeah. And then I did okay on the laser pistol every time. So yeah, I was like, and after that, it's all downhill. So I was ready. The last downhill to the finish is my favorite part. It's fun.
Did you were you worried at all with Ida kind of creeping up on you towards the end there? Was there any doubt that you were going to hold her off?
A little bit, but I was definitely making some more space, and I was doing better on the pistol every time. So I kind of knew like as long as I could stay ahead of her, I'd be all right. I think they are doing awards, so I'm probably gonna have to run.
All right.
Great job today. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, it's been fun while it lasted. Got a couple of visits, got a couple interviews with some of our favorite people. Yeah, let's bring those results up there if we can, Jason. We'll recap this thing.
Overall, though, heat definitely played a big role, and we were definitely not expecting athletes to be unfazed by it. So I think it kind of went according to plan there.
And I think we kind of nailed it, Jack. We're gonna pat ourselves in the back. We kind of nailed it. We knew what to expect from this race, which was going to be the heat was going to be a big factor. The barbed wire crawl was going to be the big game changer, and those were the two things that really mixed it up. And as Lindsay said, like those hills weren't nothing. Like those were punchy. Those really took a lot out of the athletes. And we just saw some really impressive showings from Webster and from Kempson taking the wins, but also just. We had some tighter battles in those second, third place finishes out of Atkins, out of Roglaski, and the Europeans taking third in both of them. I thought it was a pretty strong showing, like how deep these fields are. So if we look at the men's race, I mean, you had in that finish, you had 5 guys within about 3 minutes of each other, but the gaps just got nasty. Look at Hawk Call again. I want to point this out. How fast his third lap was. He was strong. The only
one who went faster. Yeah.
From second to third.
Yep. Yeah, I remember
but
he did
Kempson
the same exact thing in Big Bear. Yeah, I think that most of the athletes on lap one probably could have done themselves a favor and slowed down just a little bit. You never know how it's going to go realistically. You might feel great after one lap, but it's a long race, 23 to 30 minutes or so for pretty much everybody. So I think, you can see that 1 out of 14 athletes in the finals ended up shaving time off their lap 2 to lap 3 split, and almost everybody was close to a minute slower on lap 2 versus lap 1. So I think the rule of thumb, maybe go a little bit slower on that opening lap in the finals if you make it next time.
Seems like the way to go. But again, you're looking at Ryan Kempson and Ryan Atkins. If your name is Ryan, you've got a huge advantage in this sport, and that trend continues. It's just how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. But what I think was most interesting is this sport has changed a lot in terms of the format and what we expect is the way that you need to train for it. And yet you're seeing the same familiar faces up near the top. You see VJ Jones winning the first race, Rylan Shadeg winning the second. And then now you have that day where you've got Ryan Kempson and Ryan Atkins going 1-2. Like, it is still our same familiar cast of characters when they show up.
New place, same faces, basically. Yep. I think
and we are still waiting on the women's information to upload. So if we can't get that for you, we do apologize. But the story is somewhat similar on the women's side. You have Lindsay Webster, Chris Rogloski. You have 3 separate winners in the men's race and 3 separate winners in the women's race so far, 3 races in. And that's very exciting.
It's so unpredictable because for so many years it was only Lindsay or Nicole winning no matter what, or you'd have the same top 5 in the women's field, whether it's Alyssa, Rhea, Faye, Nicole, Lindsay for so many years. Now you've got plenty of new faces. You've got international athletes taking, or non-North American athletes coming over, taking 2 of the top 5 spots multiple times in this series for the women's field. Like, it's so much more unpredictable than it used to be. Chris Rogloski is showing she is the real deal. We've known her for a while, but she keeps showing time and time again. Alex Walker making her first Spartan race in a couple of years, showing that she hasn't disappeared. She's still one of the best. And Allie Tippett's just missing out on the top 5 as another contender in this type of format, the shorter one, where you might not have seen her do that in the longer beast or super type courses. But this 3K format has opened the door for new athletes to put their stamp in the sport.
Absolutely. And if we are unable to get those women's results up, we do apologize. But, we want to thank everyone here for joining us today for race 3 here of the North American Elite Series from Spartan Race. Big thanks to Spartan Race for putting this phenomenal event on, as well as to the OCR Report for broadcasting, as always, the hard work that goes in behind the scenes by Jason, Will, and the rest of the OCR Report team should not be forgotten. A huge thanks to our rabbits and to Jack Bauer for joining me today. Again, I'm David Makita. Thank you all, and we will see you in Mexico for the next couple of races, including August 4th for the Pan American Championships. So don't forget to tune in.
And yep.